Did I not register? Huh, guess not. And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Monday, June 19th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Easy Monday, 7-game slate ahead of us. We also have 100K up top on DraftKings, so kudos to them for not making that just be a Tuesday affair. It's going to be a fun day. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Adam, what's up?
How's it going? Yeah, looking forward to 100K to first. That would be a nice win.
Yeah, evidently I didn't register, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now.
That's probably a good idea. I guess
I remember doing it this morning, but I obviously don't. But in my head, I did. I don't know what I think I registered for.
I registered the main slate, and I also registered the night slate, which means nobody needs to worry about playing the night slate.
Yeah, I'm sure. 4-game night slate.
Yeah. And it's at 8, so you don't even have to stay up all the way to 9.
I should register that, but
obviously you should register every slate, but you don't.
Well, you don't understand how lazy I am once we get past the time where I don't have to do any more content.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it's at 8 and not 9:40, so it sets up well for you.
So my dad wasn't feeling great yesterday, so we booted all of our Father's Day dinner from yesterday to today. So I don't...
Yeah.
Main slate is just going to have to be enough for me today. But I do like the idea of getting into that. And 10K to first, that's not bad. I like it.
No, it's not the 5-game 20K to first like we've had 3 times last week, but it still works.
100K up top today is nice, especially on this 7-game slate. This is exactly what I want it to always be. And
it has me reconsidering what I was talking to you about earlier about going back to not playing as aggressively.
I mean, look, there 2,300 entries. We're at 19.7. It's clearly going to fill with no issues. There's no reason this can't be 100K up top every day.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, anyway, you want to talk baseball for today?
Yeah.
I've got some stuff that I actually like. I finally don't have to play 67% Ronald Acuna every day, so he can go 0 for 1 with 4 walks and multiple runs and RBIs. Dude, I was taking his over on Prize Picks every day. The Braves were smashing the Rockies every day, and he was still going under. I don't he went under yesterday.
Yeah, no, he was... Because even when I was I wasn't playing as much of him as the field, obviously, but even on those slates when I was fading Atlanta, Acuna was my highest owned Brave, and it was cool, I'm not getting any parts of this.
Yeah, and that was the best thing that you could do was fade him across 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, today we're kicking it off in Pittsburgh. Pirates taking on the Cubs. 4.3 run implied total for the Pirates, 4.8 for the Cubs. Osvaldo Bido going for Pittsburgh. Drew Smyly going for Chicago. Bido?
I'm guessing Bido, but I don't actually know.
I assume it should be Bido if language makes any sense, but you never know. He is 6% owned at 5,600. Drew Smyly is 10% owned at 6,500. I have a clear preference in this one. I'm surprised their ownership is as close as it is. What do you want to do with Drew Smyly?
If you get to him, you get to him. I think he's perfectly fine. I don't like that it's 85 degrees in Pittsburgh today. Ball should probably be carrying a bit better than it usually does in this park. But Smiley's just your literally your league average pitcher. He's not good. He's not bad. I said before, I find him one of the most boring guys in the league to talk about because there's just nothing really to say. But at 6,500, he is underpriced. He's just, a $7,200, $7,500 pitcher. So if you get there, I think it's fine. 4.2 implied run total for the Pirates is relatively high for this slate, but still obviously not that high in terms of run totals in general. So at that price, no problem getting there. I do feel similarly about Bido. I don't think you're going to need to pay down that often, but at 5,600, he's a really big question mark what he is at the major league level. I mentioned it this morning on the show with Laffy. There's a massive gap. If you look at the projection models on FanGraphs for the rest of the season, you have the bat projecting this guy as if he should never throw another pitch. But then you have the ATC projection system projecting him for like a 22% strikeout percentage and a 4.2 FIP. And I think that the divergence in those models makes sense because his minor league numbers make basically no sense. From the time he debuted in professional baseball in, I believe it was 2017, through the 2021 season, he was just striking out like 17 to 19% of guys. Came back in 2021 or 2022 at AAA, striking out 24+% of hitters. This year at AAA, striking out 23.5% of hitters. I talked about him before, but whenever I see a jump like that, especially when it comes at the higher levels for a pitcher that didn't have strikeout success at the lower levels, to me, it screams that he did something mechanically and got better, especially when it's strikeout rate. You know, when you see guys go from giving up a lot of runs to not giving up runs, a lot of times that can just sort of be luck based and it's going to turn around. But strikeout percentage stabilizes quickly. And when you see something like that, it is likely that he is just a better pitcher than most of his minor league numbers suggest, and then some projection systems are going to suggest. So all of that to say, I'm not really expecting to play a lot of him, but I do think he's probably more talented than $5,600.
So I mostly agree with your thought process on his changes. I would add one caveat, and I think you'll probably be with me here. It wasn't just his strikeout rate that took a jump. And like that's obviously a big thing for DFS purposes because getting those strikeouts is just different than like being a regular pitcher. His walk rate also climbed pretty dramatically. So I look at both of those things as some sort of like overarching stuff change for him, but the walk rate is really bad. And that's sort of like the negative for me. I think he's just letting it rip and he doesn't like really have a great idea of where it's going to end up, which could be great on days where you get it right. And when you're 5,600, that's fine. I think on most days, he's going to look like a guy that shouldn't be in the majors.
I think that's a good call. And I guess tying it back into the context of what I was saying, it is interesting. So I mentioned, ATC projecting him for a 4.2 FIP. And the thing I guess that's interesting there is they project him for a 22% K percentage, which I think is justifiable given what he's done the last couple of years at AAA. But they're only projecting an 8% walk rate. If you're really buying into this strikeout rate, you need to buy into the walk rate too.
You would think.
Yeah, because that, like you said, in the previous years in the minors, you're looking at 8%, 9%, 6%. Now it's it's 10.5% in 2021, 12.5% last year, 10.9% so far this year. So I think it is reasonable to buy into the strikeout rate, but I also don't know how you're projecting a lower walk rate. So if you increase that walk rate, the FIP's coming up, still not to where the bat has it at 5.5, but it's coming up to where you're still talking about probably a below average pitcher, but at least with strikeouts. Though.
I don't have any of Beto right now. I do have 20% of Smiley. I just see him as sort of like the probably best pay down option you can find that doesn't make you want to roster Brandon Williamson, who we'll talk about in a bit. We do need to talk about stacks in this one. Let's start with the Cubs. They're 4th in aggregate ownership, 5th in our top stack tool, 7th in top value. So much of what you want to do with the Cubs probably has to do with what projection system you're using for Beto. I obviously have Steamer, which is making the Cubs be my favorite stack for today. I want to know where you stand.
So I think it does matter. Like obviously what projection systems you're using and how it views Vito is going to have a big impact on how the Cubs look. But in the context of the slate, I'm not really sure it's going to matter that much because even if you were to project him to be, average to slightly below average, there's so many quality pitchers going on this slate. So like the Cubs have a 4.8 implied run total. Let's say that you're projecting Vito as well as you possibly can. That probably knocks the Cubs down to what, like 4.4? Or something, which is still as high as any team on the slate other than the Reds and
the Rangers,
the Reds and the White Sox game.
Yeah.
So like they're going to, no matter, within reason, no matter how good you think Beto actually is, the Cubs are still going to look like one of the best stacks today. And if you view him as the garbage that he was prior to 2022, then they're just that much better.
Yeah, they are my most exposed stack. They are my most exposed 5-man team. I have all of the Cubs at this point, and I'm okay with it, especially given the weather in Pittsburgh right now. I don't love the park generally for right-handed power, but it's a 7-game slate, so this is a spot that I'm willing to go. And are they chalky? Yeah. Is it basically 9% for everybody? Yeah, it is. So it's not aggressive, but I'm going to be here getting the Cubs up and down the order. Do you have a favorite Cub bet for today?
Ian Happ, because Sean V said this morning he always hits well in Pittsburgh.
I saw that. I immediately looked it up, and his WRC plus in Pittsburgh is like 5 points higher than his career average.
Yeah,
So,
but
exactly normal.
yeah, but seriously, Ian Happ.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I mean, you can make the case for Talkman leading off at 2,500. You could certainly make the Seiya Suzuki case.
Absolutely. $3,500 Yan Gomes, if you need a catcher, is not the worst thing in the world if you're trying to buy a home run.
Yep.
What do you want to do with the Pittsburgh side, though? 6th in ownership. They're not all that far behind the Cubs in terms of aggregate ownership. We don't have them grading out all that well. I'm a little bit higher on their value proposition than we are. Do you like getting to Pittsburgh against Smiley? We were getting 9 righties.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say, too, is I like the value component here. You have an entirely right-handed lineup. And again, it's not that Smiley is terrible against righties or anything. 153 expected ISO, 299 expected WOBA. Actually pretty solid numbers this year. If you go back to last year, pretty similar. 166 expected ISO, 308 expected WOBA. But you do have some quality right-handed bats here. It is good hitting weather, and they are pretty cheap. You have McCutchen leading off at 4,400. Certainly nothing wrong with that. Reynolds, we know, is good. Connor Joe, MPE, 3,300. It's a pretty good price tag there, and there's some power. Brian Hayes gives you plenty of upside. One thing that I do really like about the Pirates, though, is they called up Henry Davis. So Henry Davis is hitting 7th, 2K flat as a catcher that can hit the ball really far. Only projects for about a 150 ISO in the majors right now, but and projects to be a slightly below average hitter at this point. But he's a catcher that is supposed to be able to hit 70 grade raw power, 50-60 game power on the Fangraph scouting report, 229 ISO at AAA this year, 264 ISO at AA this year, more larger sample at AA. But for a 2K catcher, the guy's certainly got upside.
Which side of this game do you prefer?
I think the Cubs.
Are you surprised to see their ownership be as close as it is?
Not really. The Cubs are kind of expensive. And value pitching today isn't the best. The Cubs are weird because you have a really cheap leadoff guy at 2,500. Then Nico Horner's really expensive. Then Suzuki's pretty cheap for the power he offers. Happ is pretty cheap. Swanson's expensive. Bellinger's expensive. Morel's expensive. So it's a weird team. You can find value on the Cubs, but you also have some weird spots where it's just kind of surprising that guys on the same team are priced so differently.
Rank the game, which I think is a very interesting exercise today, especially given current ownership. The difference between Smiley, the Cubs, and the Pirates is kind of like eye of the beholder.
Yeah, I think that it's Cubs, Pirates, Smiley, Vito.
Okay.
I just finished a dummy sim, which isn't it's not perfect. I just ran a bunch of 5-man stacks. I want to see how it looks. But once I get that in front of me, I'll double back and kind of see how it's showing up for me right now.
Okay. I'm running a new fresh crunch after we just got a couple more lineups in, including that Pittsburgh lineup. For me, it's Cubs, Smiley, Pirates, Vito, but not 2-3 can flip around for me pretty easily. And it might, although the only difference in the Pirates lineup was Marcano in for whoever the hell else was in the lineup before that, a name that I don't recognize off the top of my head, and it's already not on my sheet. No, I don't think so. Jason Bay? I don't think he's back on the Pirates. I threw out a Jason Bay jersey a couple months ago when I had to clean out what was my previous closet. Somehow a Jason Bay jersey ended up in my closet at home when we were cleaning it out.
I was going to ask why you had a Jason Bay.
I don't know where it came from. I didn't own it. Wasn't my guy, never on my team at a time. It wasn't a Braves jersey. It was, in my mind, it's a Pirates jersey now that I look at it, but it could have just as easily been Mets. And
I was going to say, Mets, Red Sox, Pirates for your choices, right?
Yeah, and not Braves. And don't know why I had it. Don't know where it came from. No idea. Weird. He was good.
He was. One of the worst. I do remember feeling legitimately sorry for him in the home run derby that year.
I don't remember.
Pretty sure he didn't hit one out and was aggressively hitting ground balls and line drives.
150, 130, 150, 140 WRC plus for his first 4 years. Off year with Pittsburgh, 130, 135. I mean, that's a 6 out of 7 year stretch where things are looking pretty tasty. And they probably got off the gas.
In the sim I just ran, and again, this very easily can change between now and lock. I wasn't getting the Pirates or the Cubs.
Interesting. Okay.
And I did get to a lot of Smiley, actually.
Okay.
So not the way that I see the game, but like you said, everything in there was so close that that's just sort of how it worked out for me.
All right. Well, schedule for the rest of the day, pretty easy. MLB Live before lock coming up next. They'll take you from 6 all the way up until 7:05. That part is easy. Simple Monday for you guys. Plenty of content like we normally have. The other thing I got to talk to you about is BetMGM. And I know you guys hear us talk about BetMGM a lot. I get it. And I would understand not even wanting to listen to this, but you should. This is for you. This is a lot less for me than it is for you, because you're walking away from a BetMGM sign up if you have that ability to. I'm getting dangerously close and I cannot wait. We're talking about 1 month of Stochastic plus Platinum. So you get every single sport that we cover, everything on the DFS side on the back end except for Fantasy Cruncher, which you could add on. And you get up to $1,000 when you make a deposit and put in your first bet. Now, if you win that bet, everything that I'm saying is basically meaningless to you. Now, my recommendation is to try to put $1,000 down on something, probably an underdog, and build up a bankroll. If it wins, that money just stays in your account. You don't have to do anything else. If it loses, you will get that money back as site credit, bet credits, whatever you want to call it. So you'll have the opportunity to run through it again. It is a perfect opportunity for you to get started in the sports betting space. We obviously have plenty of sports betting content on the Odds Shopper channel, baseball all the time. So we could talk about that a little bit later, but it's a great way for you to start off with more money than you actually have. I know that sounds crazy, but you do. You basically double the amount of money you have at the beginning, one way or the other, win or lose. If you win, awesome. If you lose, still kind of awesome. Sign up at BetMGM using the link in the description. That would be fantastic. Don't forget, the legal age for gambling is 21 or over. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Game number 2. The Reds taking on the Rockies. 5.8 run implied total for the Reds, 4.7 for the Rockies. This game might as well be in Coors. Brandon Williamson going for Cincinnati. Austin Gomber going for Colorado. Williamson, by most projection systems, not very good. Gomber, average-ish for a Colorado pitcher, however you want to say it. Gomber, unowned. Brandon Williamson pulling 9% ownership. Let's just start there. Should he be getting any? Other than randomness?
Yeah, see, I think it's kind of just random ownership. Like he's 5,500, he's pitching today. But it's a real tough sell because one, I don't know that you need to go that cheap on this slate. But also, like I just said, where I am paying down, I'm just using Drew Smiley mostly. So yeah, it's a tough sell. I mean, this is somebody that I don't really know why he's here, other than like he's just the next available prospect for the Reds. But they got him, I believe, in the Castillo. I'm guessing they got him in the Castillo trade because he was with Seattle until AA and then came over to the Reds last year. So most likely the Castillo trade. But so he was pitching well for the Mariners, or he did pitch well for the Mariners at AA in 2021. 13 starts, 67 and a third innings, 3.84 xFIP, 3.24 FIP. Everything's good. Comes to Cincy. AA, same level, same exact number of innings pitched, 5.25 xFIP, 4.35 FIP. Gets moved up to AAA, where he makes 13 starts, 55 and a third innings pitched, 6.29 xFIP, 4.9 FIP. Really bad. Comes back to AAA this year, repeats the level, 8 starts, 34 innings pitched, 6.34 xFIP, almost identical to last year, 6.59 FIP, even worse than last year. Gets promoted. 6 starts, 31 and 2/3 innings, 5.51 FIP, xFIP, 6.09 FIP, striking out basically nobody, 15.9% K rate, 1.99 home runs per 9. It's really hard for me to find any sort of, but he's good at this in this guy right now. Like he's somebody that has just kind of gotten promoted. It seems like because they would like him to be good. They traded Luis Castillo and got him back and would really like him to work out more so than anything he's actually doing on a baseball field.
Yeah, he's not great. Not
Like
great at all.
he reminds me, and I'm going on the assumption he was in the Castillo trade. But he reminds me of somebody like the Orioles used to be like this because they could never develop talent. They never actually had good prospects. So all that we as fans got was, well, we thought this guy was going to be good, and now we're going to just like throw him into the major leagues. So at least you get to see him, and then they would suck. That's really what this reminds me of.
Traded by the Seattle Mariners with a player to be named later, Justin Dunn and Jake Fraley to the Cincinnati Reds for Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker.
Okay, so not the Castillo trade, but still a pretty big trade.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Any interest in Gomber at 5,100? Because he's probably not that great either.
I forgot that Suarez and Winker were even like separate deals there. No interest in Gomber really. Reds are coming in with a 5.9 implied run total, highest on the slate by like nearly a full run. Gomber's been better outside of Coors than at Coors this year, as you would expect, but it's more so he's been bad outside of Coors and then just like otherworldly bad at Coors. So this isn't one of the the Coors splits guys where it's just like, oh well, he's 5,100 because his overall stats suck, but he's actually a good pitcher. He's not, and he's still in a tough park to pitch as well.
Well, let's just get it out of the way now. Let's get to the Reds. Second in our top stack tool, fourth in value. They are the number one owned team today. I am getting to quite a bit, but in and around the field for most guys, heavy on De La Cruz, which I don't mind. This is the most ridiculous team I've ever seen that you could roster. They have 6 MPEs today. Like, there's like basically no limit to the amount of combinations of Cincinnati Reds that you could have. It's a great park. It's not a great starter. They're running out 8 out of 9, right? The only lefty that they're running out today is Joey Votto, who honestly I thought retired. Sorry, Joey Votto. This is, the park is amazing. I don't know what else to say here. I don't know how you don't want to get to Cincinnati. This is the easiest team you'll ever roster.
Yeah, so I barely have any.
Sure. Well, that's a very different discussion point for like a contest. They're
right, yeah.
Unequivocally the number one team in terms of just flexibility.
I was going to say, this is 100% a do as I say, not as I do type thing. Like, the Reds are the top stack today. They're not my highest owned stack. I'm not getting to a lot of them, but that's an ownership thing. That's a totally separate conversation where in large field tournaments, I'm playing other teams, at least right now. And again, if that changes, cool, because I would love to get to the Reds. Really good spot, obviously. But like they look good. And for the reasons you just said, I said it this morning too, there's so much MPE on this team. It is very easy to stack them. That does drive up the ownership, but it's a really easy team to stack. They are relatively expensive. Kevin Newman leading off at 3,200. Then every hitter down to Tyler's through Nick Senzel at 7 is at least $4,000. Then it drops off a little bit with Stevenson and Fairchild at the bottom. But it is relatively expensive, but easy to get to them. Highest implied run total on the board. It's a very obviously good spot. So again, very different conversation than what I specifically am doing in tournament lineups right now. But clearly a good spot to get to. This is a team you should have tons of in cash games. This is a team that is, again, it's not even that they're a bad tournament stack. It's just one that I personally don't have at the moment.
Yeah, I'm getting to like a pretty sizable chunk of them in terms of 5-mans, but I'm also getting them as the filler to most of my other spots.
Yeah.
And that's where I love them, because you can get basically any combination of 3 guys for the Reds in multiple positions. They fit as like the auxiliary stack so well today.
Yeah, and they are, and so also in the lineups that I ran before the show, I didn't bother doing like different, I wasn't double stacking, so that changes the way my lineups looked. But I am getting to some Reds as one-offs, 2-mans, whatever. But like individually, probably coming in around half the field on most of the Reds bats at the moment, and then as a full stack, not really getting it. But certainly happy if that changes, because I'm tired of getting beat over the head by the Braves the last few days, and then the Reds are basically in the Braves spot today.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I got a lot of De La Cruz, but I am more than okay with that. What do you want to do on the opposite side here? Because this is where I think it starts to get interesting. Rockies are 5th in ownership, 3rd in top stack, 3rd in top value. I'm getting to them too. And I'm getting to them as a 5-man more than I'm getting to the Reds. This is just like, I hope one of these offenses are the offense for today. And I certainly want to target against Brandon Williamson.
They are my highest owned 5-man stack. Ryan McMahon is my highest owned hitter. Randall Grichuk is my 3rd highest owned hitter. They look really good. And again, like don't take my personal exposures as gospel or anything. It's just to illustrate, like, I'm getting to this team. They look like they're going on their own. They're in a really good spot. Implied run totals jumped like 0.2 of a run since I did the show this morning as well, which always makes you feel decent. And yeah, Brandon Williamson is just bad. Like probably a worse pitcher than Austin Gomber, at least at this point in his career. So yeah, if you're gonna get, right now we have Cincinnati in the aggregate getting 15% ownership. We have Colorado like a little over half that at 9%. Colorado is looking really, really good for me.
Yeah, I have 41 5-man Rocky stacks right now. I've got everybody. Unfortunately, you can only roster 8 of these guys, but I'm cool with it. So I assume it's a Connor Kaiser day today where he triple dongs, and I just want to punch everyone. But yeah, this is an offense game. I want one of these teams to smash, and I would prefer it to be the Rockies because that's just going to be easier. But I'll probably have a lot of Rockies with 3-man red stacks or 2-man red stacks, and that's fine with me too. I think there's just a lot of offense on the table. If this game is like 2-1 in the 7th inning, I might have to have a cocktail, even though I'm trying to avoid it today.
Yeah. So yeah, same boat. Like I definitely want to get the bats from this game. Right now, it's looking like more Colorado than Cincy for me, which given the ownership, I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
But like it's one of those where it's a lot easier for me to tell you what Reds bats I like than what Rockies bats I like, because the Rockies don't have good hitters, but it's still just such a good spot in this matchup. So it's like, yeah, I like McLean, I like India, I love De La Cruz, I like Steer, I like Senzel, but with the Rockies, it's basically I feel good about Grichuk and sort of McMahon, but as a team, it's still just a good spot against a minor league pitcher, basically.
Rank the game.
It's Reds 1, Rockies 2, I guess Williamson 3, Gomber 4, from a just likelihood of success standpoint. If you want to say Colorado is the best tournament stack, I obviously am not going to argue with you.
Twins and Red Sox going in this one. 4.4 run implied total for the Twins, 3.8 for the Red Sox. Joe Ryan not going for Minnesota. That's going to be Pablo Lopez. James Paxton going for the Red Sox. 29% ownership going to Lopez, 18 to Paxton. I have a little bit more Paxton, but in terms of pitching, like I just want both guys today. Even though I don't love either spot because these teams are like decent.
Yeah, not the best matchup for either pitcher. Good strikeout matchup for Paxton. Dangerous matchup as well. I'm getting around 14% Paxton right now, getting 36% Lopez. So a little surprised at that. But you do have a 3.7 implied run total for the Red Sox. One thing I did, it kind of came up in chat today, and I think it might have actually been Shaw V that initially brought it up, and it was a good point. He mentioned
it could have been him then.
He mentioned Boston having the doubleheader yesterday and then flying to Minnesota. I'm not overly like it's obviously probably not great for the hitters, but there's not a lot you can do to quantify that. But
I bet they were flying coach on a Southwest flight.
Well, no, but I mean, traveling still sucks.
Sure,
and playing a double,
but no, not travel.
What I'm getting at is it didn't make a lot of sense to me. The Twins 4.3 implied run total against Paxton. I don't think it's really an indictment on Paxton. The Red Sox bullpen, they had the doubleheader yesterday, so you had guys work a lot. Pivetta and Chris Murphy each threw 40-plus pitches. You had 3 other guys throw between 10 and 20. They were off Saturday because of the rain out. You had 2 other guys on Friday throw 30-plus pitches. So there is a pretty good chance that you get some add-on runs from the Twins once Paxton gets out of there. The reason I'm mentioning it is just that I don't think this – like if you're rostering Paxton against a 4.3 implied run total, you're not going to feel great about it. I just don't think this run total is really an expectation of innings 1 through 6. I think it's more 7 through 9.
I think we're on the same page here. Like I said, I have more Paxton. I wouldn't really care which guy I had. I think they both look really good for today. I think just the fact that Paxton's 11% less owned is probably the reason that I'm getting a little bit more of him. But either one of them, I'm more than happy to get to. And they're very clearly a big part of the rest of my day. What is not a part of the rest of my day is either one of these teams from a stacking perspective.
Yeah, not getting too much of either from a stacking standpoint either. Both coming in around like 8% in terms of five-man stacks for me. Individual hitter-wise, Byron Buxton getting to a good amount of him. Perfectly happy with that. Probably not going to be super popular given the matchup, and he's got a massive ceiling. He's pulling 8% ownership. Always happy to get to him at pretty low ownership, but nothing really standing out bats-wise. One other, I guess, minor negative for Pablo Lopez is that he does have a much higher strikeout percentage against righties than lefties. He's still good against lefties, 23.5% K percentage compared to 33.5% against righties. But you do have 4 lefties in the top 5, 5 in the top 7 for the Red Sox. Now, the good thing is that Lopez is still good at getting them out and limiting power. But from a strikeout standpoint, you do prefer him to face lineups that have more righties.
Ranking the game.
Lopez, Paxton, Twins, Red Sox. If you want to flip Paxton and Lopez, that's fine.
Folks, hit that like button. 630 people in here, 89 likes, not enough. We need to make that number go a little bit higher because now we got to talk a little bit about Prize Picks. I talk about Prize Picks every single day, 6 days a week. In fact, I put out a Prize Picks video. You guys should be watching that. And if you haven't signed up at Prize Picks yet, you should do that by clicking the link in the description of this video. You'll get up to $100 on your first deposit by doing so. And a month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. That's everything we have on the DFS side. I mean, baseball is going to be the priority here. We're talking projections, ownership, top stacks, top pitchers, top batters, all of that good stuff. That's what you will get if you sign up using our link. I mean, we're talking about working our way, like the way that I'm looking at it right now. I got all these fantasy scores pulled up for hitters. I want to know if they're going to have more than that fantasy score or less. But it's not just baseball. And there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There are 18 different categories that you could touch on Prize Picks just for baseball. That doesn't even include golf, WNBA, soccer, KBO, tennis, college basketball, NFL season-long plays. So many different options for you at Prize Picks. We've got a lot of help for you, whether it's watching my videos, using our Bet Pro package, which you can sign up for, using our Odd Shopper Pick'em package, which you could sign up for, or you could just go about it yourself. I don't know why you would want to do that. This deal seems good, but I'm going to hit Adam with a couple individual lines for some of these guys that are playing today. We're going to see if he wants to go more or less than that number. Are you ready?
Scoring.
It's DraftKings scoring.
Okay. Across the board, I thought it was like a combination.
I'm 3 points for a single, 5 for a double, 8 for a triple, 10 for a home run.
Yeah, but what's pitching?
We're only looking at hitters.
Okay, don't care.
So irrelevant. I'm going to hit you with some of them that I have on my video for today. How do you feel today about Pete Alonso over under 7 fantasy points?
Slight over.
Okay, that was an under for me, as was Francisco Lindor, also at 7. How about...
Are you asking me about Lindor or just...
No. That was just me stating that was the case. How about we go to Jonathan India over under 7.5?
Feels like it should be an over. Yeah, over.
Yes, very much so an over for me. And I've had a couple unders on India as of late. We're going to do one more over under 8 fantasy points for Juan Soto.
Over.
We are in agreement, man. Looking good. Guys, get all that and more at Stochastic and or Odd Shopper, but use the link in the description. That will help you out the most. We go to the Brewers. 4-run implied total, taking on the Diamondbacks, 3.8. Corbin Burnes and Merrill Kelly, basically the sort of the same matchup that we have with Twins and Red Sox. Very pitching heavy, less so hitting heavy. 31% ownership coming into Corbin Burnes, who's the second most expensive pitcher today at $10K. Merrill Kelly is 22% owned at $9,600. Which pitcher do you anticipate having more of?
Burnes. Right now by a lot, which I don't love. Kelly has seen an uptick in strikeout percentage this year. He does have a good strikeout matchup against the Brewers, but he is also at a price point where you're paying for what he has done this year. Corbin Burnes has the more difficult matchup, about a 19.5% strikeout percentage on the D-backs active roster this year, 108 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. But Burnes has been a really good pitcher for a while, seems to be getting it back after a slow start to the season. He's now up to about a 24% K percentage for the year, at least 6 innings pitched in 4 straight, at least 7 strikeouts in 4 straight. Again, not to game log chase, but with a pitcher like Burnes, you were expecting him to regress back to being a very good pitcher as opposed to just continuing to suck like he did earlier in the year. So I am getting more of him at only $400 more expensive than Kelly.
Yeah, I have 22% of Burns right now. I have 1% of Merrill Kelly. I feel like I never get Merrill Kelly, but
I
at
don't
the
get
same
him a
time,
lot
like
either.
I'm
And
okay with it today.
yeah, I used to like not getting to him because he was just, like a not very good strikeout guy, and you're just trying to dodge him going 7 or 8 innings. I don't like it as much now because he actually strikes dudes out. But
Yeah.
it's still, when you look at the talent around him, it's still tough to prioritize, I think.
Can you prioritize either side of the bats here? Diamondbacks are 8th in top stack, 5th in top value. I don't see that. Brewers are 12th and 12th in those two things. I don't really have much of this game from a hitting perspective. I don't really want it either.
The Brewers are currently my second highest owned stack, which I
Okay.
don't like or want, and I hope it goes away. But the case for it would be they're not getting ownership. They have a 4-run implied total, which is kind of like perfectly normal on this slate. And they are in a good hitter's park. There is some value with Jesse Winker hitting second. Tapi is hitting sixth. You do have upside with Adames, Yelich, Tellez, and Yelich. So like I get it sort of, but also I'm not recommending it, and I hope that it goes away. But that appears to be one of the low owned teams that is showing up for me.
Interesting.
No, like this is why I think they succeed type reason. Kelly has allowed a 170 expected ISO to lefties this year. That's nice. 141 the righties, obviously not as good, but yeah, they're good park.
Yeah.
There's sort of circumstantial reasons that you could like them. I still think Kelly's good, and I would prefer to not have my night revolve around the Brewers. But honestly, like this, it's tough to be different too, because there's like 3 bad pitchers on the slate.
Yeah. Would you rather? So I assume you're not getting to the Diamondbacks because of Burns?
I'm not.
Okay.
I would actually rather be getting to the Diamondbacks, I think, but just because they have better hitters. I did mention in my article today, I like Christian Walker as a one-off.
Good way to buy a home run, that's for sure.
Yeah. Burns has allowed a 201 expected ISO to righties this year, 0.62 to lefties. His cutter has just been lights out on left-handed power, gets swings and misses with his changeup and curveball. He's been really, really good against lefties, has been home run prone to righties. So if you're just trying to grab a low-owned home run, I do like Christian Walker.
All righty. Well, let's see. Where are we at here? We did that one, another one. Okay, so we're good there. Rank the game.
The way in terms of, I think it's Burns, Kelly, D-backs, Brewers. Apparently, as far as what I'm playing, it is Burns, Brewers, Kelly, D-backs.
Just so we're on the same page here, because it's come up a couple times in chat. I believe you and I are on the same page, so I'm just going to say it like this. The weather in Colorado, weather in Cincinnati for Colorado and Cincinnati is irrelevant to me at this particular moment. I guess keep an eye on it for the next hour and 20 minutes, but it will play no role whatsoever in what I'm doing.
Yeah, pay attention to the weather. The way it looks right now, I would play the game.
Yep, same. I'm discounting nothing. I will have more Colorado and Cincinnati than any other combination of two teams on this entire slate.
Right. The caveat just being it's 5:40 Eastern time right now, and shit can change.
Yeah, if it's 6:45 and it looks worse, then yeah. But right now, it doesn't look bad in any way.
Yeah, if the way it looks right now, if they delay, I'm going to be really concerned. But because it doesn't look like they should delay,
right?
And it looks like if anything, it probably rains more later. So I would be really concerned. But assuming that we don't get a delay, we don't get a change in forecast, I'm perfectly fine going to it right now.
Yep. Astros and Mets, 3.9 run implied total for the Stros, 3.7 for the Mets. Hunter Brown and Max Scherzer. This is 3 straight games of like really good pitcher versus really good pitcher, although Scherzer can suck it based on his recent results. Hunter Brown, 10-2, 17% owned. He's the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. Max Scherzer, 8,800. Once again, 32% owned. I don't what I have, so just talk about it however you want.
So I've talked in the past about, I think slates like this are really fun to play and a real pain in the ass to talk about, where like most of the teams just look really, really similar. And I hated having to talk about the Reds, like how good they are, but also what it looks like for me right now. I hated having to talk about the Brewers, that I don't like them and the way it looks right now. This is going to be the worst spot for me. Max Scherzer is currently, if the slate started right now, Max Scherzer is my highest owned pitcher. The Astros are my third highest owned stack.
Well,
and it makes sense to me, but
yeah, I don't like if you're gonna do like I don't hate it. I mean, it's not like if it goes bad for Scherzer, it's gonna be homers. He's not the BABIP guy. He gave up 4 of them across 4 innings.
Well, and also look at the pricing. Scherzer's 8,800. Outside of Altuve, Bregman, and Tucker, the Astros are free. I mean, Pena's 4,400, but like the Astros are free. If Max Scherzer does not pay off an $8,800 price tag, given that even this year, still a 25% strikeout percentage. If Scherzer doesn't pay off an $8,800 price tag, you've got some cheap bats putting up some pretty big scores, probably.
Yeah. Which one of those things do you hate the most?
The Astros.
Interesting. Okay. I thought you would have said Scherzer for sure.
Well, so I guess it depends how you mean it. Like I hate the most in that I think Scherzer is more likely to succeed than the Astros.
Yeah,
I feel more comfortable with the Scherzer ownership. I sort of hate playing a chalk Scherzer more than I hate playing a low-owned Houston stack.
Why do you hate playing a chalk Scherzer? It went so well last time.
Yeah, and the time before that.
Oh, man. I don't know how you don't get to him. I don't know what to do.
Right. So the thing with like, yeah, it's a tough matchup against Houston. It's a tough matchup for Paxton, at least somewhat. It's a tough matchup for Burns. It's a tough matchup for Lopez. It's a tough matchup for Brown. Where exactly are you going on this slate that is an easy matchup for the offenses or the pitching, really? And, again, the answer, like outside of a couple spots where you're going to get all the ownership coming in, with the bat. So that's sort of what I was getting at, where I think slates like this are super fun to play because you're kind of just like dodging one team that's in a great spot. And then everything else is really similar. But as far as feeling good about it, I mean, I don't feel good about Scherzer. He has struggled this year. He does have a tough matchup. Obviously, Houston's not the same quality of offense without Alvarez, but it's still a tough strikeout matchup. It still has plenty of good hitters in their lineup. But you are getting a discounted price tag at 8,800. So happy to get to Scherzer. Happy to get to a 4% owned Houston stack against him as well.
Are you happy to get to Hunter Brown? I have 11% right now.
I think he's a really good play. I'm not getting there. I mentioned it on the show this morning. I mentioned it in my article. In terms of just like 1-versus-1 pivots, him versus Burns is really interesting to me. Yeah. Brown has been better than Burns this year in terms of strikeout percentage, in terms of xFIP. He's got a tough matchup against the Mets. They don't strike out a lot. They're an above average offense. The Diamondbacks also don't strike out a lot, and they're an above average offense. You're getting 30% ownership coming into Burns, 18% to Brown. So that looks to me like a spot where you certainly can just make that pivot, play more Brown, play less Burns. It's not what I'm doing, but I think it's backed up by the data that it's a perfectly solid strategy.
Can't get to the bats, right? Not with any sort of, well, I mean, I guess you can get to the Astros, evidently. Yeah. I assume, is that a lot of Altuve, Bregman, and Tucker?
Let me see.
Because like if it's the bottom of this, then maybe I don't love it as much.
No, so it's Tucker is my highest owned Houston bat, followed by Diaz, followed by Abreu, followed by Alvarez. They're all 12 to 14%.
Okay.
Bregman is 8%. McCormick is next. Pena's next. Myers is last.
Any Mets bats here?
No, I don't appear to be getting. I have a single Mets stack. So, I mean, and again, like I think it makes sense. I don't feel great about it, but like Verlander, not to say Brown can't have a bad start or Houston can't have a good, or I mean, the Mets can't have a good game. Verlander, I think, is the more boom or bust. Like, I'm not sure exactly what this guy is at this stage in his career type guy. Like, I'm confident Hunter Brown's a very good pitcher.
The word you're looking for there is Scherzer.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, no disagreements. It's basically the same guy, only Max Scherzer doesn't get to put it in Kate Upton. Which I assume probably sticks in Max Scherzer's craw too. Anyway, I got nothing else here. Rank the game. Astros
Scherzer
won, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's for me, Scherzer, Houston, Brown, Mets. I think it's Scherzer, Brown, Houston, Mets.
What you guys should do right now, if you've got the scratch, $180 a month, the MLB Sims tool is available for you guys. Click the link in the description. You can find a lot of Sims tool content out there, including Adam doing a Sims video Monday through Friday.
Yep.
Greg doing Sims videos on his personal Twitter. You can check that out. This is going to be like the leveled up version of DFS. So you're importing a crunch. In general, you're probably trying to get that crunch to look sort of like the field. The Sims tool is going to handle everything on the back end because it's going to simulate all of these lineups against each other, and it's going to let you know which lineups grade out the best in terms of ROI. Not only that, which players and stacks all grade out from an ROI perspective. It's treating the lineups you provide it like a contest, and it is trying to give you the best lineups possible for that. This is a very new step in the industry, and me personally, I think it's the best thing that exists anywhere in the industry at this moment. I think you guys should take advantage of this right now. I don't want to say that it's necessary because that would be an incorrect statement. People have succeeded without using simulations before, and they will continue to succeed as long as you've got a setup in mind. If you want to just use our lineup generator instead, very, very good tool for you. If you're looking to play one lineup, two lineups, anything up to 20, that tool is going to work for you because it's basically just simulating on the back end and taking the things that we throw away that we think are already bad lineups. You just have less flexibility. For this one, you've got significant flexibility. The MLB Sims tool, I love seeing it, honestly. Adam's going to be cranking out these videos every single day during the week, walking you through it, walking you through the data, and walking you through some of the stacks that rise to the top. This will be the perfect sort of video for Adam to dig into the situation of like why he's getting the Astros or why he was getting the Brewers. Those are the sort of things that might be coming up higher in an ROI calculation that you might not necessarily notice by just looking at raw data. So
yeah, unfortunately today it was really boring with the Reds at the top at the time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if it had shown up then like it was now, it would have been a lot more to dig into.
Sign up, guys. Link is in the description. I've seen some people claiming that they got it. We let off the show. I can't remember who said it. Guitar Z-Man picked it up earlier today, I believe. Glad to have you, man. We want to see as many people as possible get it. Well, you know what I mean. Let's go to number 9. Well, not number 9. Technically, what is this? Number 6? There were 3 games before this, so
What are you talking about?
So I have all the games with like the number of like games that there are, but there were 3 games.
There's 7, so starting at 9 is weird.
Well, there's 3 that aren't on the slate.
Okay.
So we started at 4. So I said 9, but I really meant 6. Tanner Banks allegedly going for the White Sox. Andrew Heaney going for the Rangers. 4.9 run implied total for the Rangers. 4.5 for the White Sox, which I think is interesting. Tanner Banks is flat 4K. You're not going there. Andrew Heaney is 7,500, pulling 14% ownership. Should he be more interesting today?
I had in my video earlier, he was showing up a ton for me. In the one I just did, I got him 14%, so right in line with the field. This is another spot where I'm not getting a lot of White Sox. Again, I think they're a really good spot, but they are getting a lot of ownership. But this is another just huge boomer bust spot where I do sort of wish I were treating it like Scherzer and the Astros. $7,500 Heaney, 24.5% strikeout percentage. If he, but also very home run prone, and you have a very cheap White Sox team as well. Like, if Heaney doesn't give you a good score at 7,500, there's a pretty good chance that you're getting home runs from, 3K Andrew Vaughn, $4,600 Robert, 4K Jimenez, Jake Berger at 3,500, Clint Frazier at 2,100, whatever he used to be called, that messed up your projections for a while.
Jackson.
Jackson Frazier. Grandal hitting 5th at 3,400. Like, there's so much upside here for the White Sox, and there's upside for the Rangers. So I think the reason that the White Sox aren't showing up for me a ton right now is that they are popular, but I think they're good plays. Like, there's a ton of upside here. And really, any of these guys, you can make a case should be like $500 to $1,000 more expensive. Vaughn, Robert, Jimenez, Berger in particular.
Yeah, they are just free. They're the number 1 value stack in our top stack tool. They were number 1 for me in terms of value as well. I have 0 150-man or 0 5-man stacks in my 150. I have 2% aggregate White Sox. This is the spot that I have the biggest fade for today.
This is a team where I could also, obviously, like I said, a lot of this stuff could change for me because I didn't do a perfect like approximation of the field in the sim. But this is a team where it would make sense where because I only ran 5-man stacks and then sim them, maybe I'm not getting the White Sox because it's just pushing up a bunch of, like, oh, Byron Buxton's low and Fernando Tatis, like these really good hitters. Whereas when I'm playing, 5-3, 5-2, it's like, oh, you can get all three of these guys together, from the White Sox.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do think I probably get to a little bit more Chicago. I really like them one way or the other.
They're not even the most owned team here because the Rangers are second, and they're the inverse. They're number one in our top stack tool, 12th in value. These guys are aggressively expensive at the top. They should be. I mean, these guys deserve those price tags. How are you handling Texas? Because this is another spot that I am fading pretty aggressively.
Yeah, I'm not getting to them too much here. Again, wouldn't be mad if I did. Good hitters park, not great hitting weather, but perfectly fine, or at least in terms of temperature. It looks like the wind might be, the wind's blowing out a bit. Temperatures in the low 70s, but good hitters park. 5-run implied total for the Rangers. They look good. Quasi bullpen game here. Tanner Banks opening. He threw 46 pitches last time out. Not sure if they're going to go with Jesse, Schultens or something like that, as the long guy or not. But you're probably not seeing the same pitcher more than one time through the order. So not the most appealing thing there, but massive ceiling for the Rangers. Really high upside spot for sure.
Which side do you prefer?
So I'm not getting to either, but I prefer the White Sox when you factor in salary.
Interesting. Okay. I prefer Texas just because of the makeup of their first 5 hitters. A lot of outfield on the top of Chicago. Second, short, third are the expensive guys at the top of Texas, and I just prefer it that way. Yeah. That said, I have 3 Rangers 5-man, so I'm not really getting to any of it. Rank the game.
Some combination of White Sox, Heaney, Rangers.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for leaving out Tanner Banks.
Yeah, Tanner Banks is last.
Okay, good job.
So, I think it's Heaney or the White Sox 1 and 2, just because Texas is so expensive. I really just love the idea of 2-man, 3-man White Sox. Like Andrew Heaney, even when he's good, is giving up, home run or 2. So in terms of what I have right now, it's Heaney, Rangers, White Sox. But I think it's either Heaney or the White Sox 1, the other 1, 2, Rangers 3.
All righty. Well, 750 people here, 140 likes. Let's hit that thumbs up one last time. If you haven't done it yet, please help us out. It just makes me feel better when that number goes up. We're going to close it out with the late night hammer. Final game at 9:45. Giants hosting the Padres. 4.3 run implied total for the Giants. 4.4 for the Pods. Ryan Walker going for the Giants. Michael Wacha going for the Pods. 12% ownership coming into Wacha. I don't know. He's on the slate.
Yeah, he's fine as like a pivot from Heaney or Verlander. Scherzer. That's going to happen a lot this year. But right. It's it's a good park. It's not a great matchup. 122 WRC plus on the Giants active roster against right-handed pitching. One good thing for Wacha is that he does have a really, really good changeup that limits left-handed production. He actually has a higher strikeout percentage against lefties than righties. So he's just somebody where, if you are playing, let's say, the Reds or the White Sox or the Reds and the White Sox together, going to Wacha instead of like Scherzer would make sense.
Okay. You want Walker?
No, and it looks like we could get Keaton Wynn following him up, but I'm not playing him either.
Sure. I wouldn't even know how to type that name in. Let's talk Padres bats then. 8th in ownership. That's a little bit higher than the Giants. They're 4th in top stack. Not exactly cheap, though.
Hang on a sec. Actually, I kind of want to walk back the Keaton Wynn thing.
Okay.
So I don't know if
we want to play him.
He is $4,000 with a 27% strikeout percentage at AAA this year.
Okay.
The bat projects a 22% strikeout percentage, 3.79 FIP. ATC is at 23%, 4.12. Zips is at 20%, 4.26. I don't know for sure if or when he's coming into this game, but they did call him up from AAA.
Yeah.
DraftKings has him listed as the probable long reliever. We have him in projections. If you are punting pitcher today, this is the guy you do it with, as opposed to like Tanner Banks, I think.
Yeah. Not the kind of guy that I'm trying to grab against the Padres, though, and like maybe he doesn't even step foot on the field.
Right.
Type
like
situation.
I'm probably not doing it, or at least not doing it very often. But If that's the route you're trying to go. I mean, like I said, right now I have 32% Drew Smiley. If I decided to turn 10% of that into this guy, not the worst idea.
Do you want to get to the Padres bats at all? I mean, like I got a bunch of Soto at just 5% ownership. I think that's interesting, but I don't really want to stack these guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing up fourth for me, but like that's tied with Minnesota, with Boston. After my big top three of Colorado, Milwaukee, and Houston, everything kind of flattened out. Tatis is the guy that's really driving the Padres for me. He's okay. I'm getting like 18% of him. Bogart's coming in at like 12%. So yeah, like if you get to them, fine. But the problem is still that you're getting a bullpen game, which is just not that appealing in general. The guy coming in appears to be a competent pitcher, if it is Win, and the spark just kills power.
But the only saving grace here is that like the Padres transcend it kills power. It doesn't matter to Tatis. It doesn't matter to Soto.
I mean, it still matters. It's just
sure, but like in terms of raw talent, like this is the best lineup on the slate. And you can get them at basically no ownership other than Tatis because of how expensive they are. Like it is to me, it's an interesting zag today if you just want to pay up for high-level all-stars.
Right. I mean, this team has a 4.3 implied run total still, which, you know, again, that's higher than both sides of the Astros game. It's higher than both sides of the Brewers game. Yeah. It's even with, no, it's higher than both sides of the Minnesota game. And it's higher than the Pirates. So you have 5 teams ahead of them in terms of implied run total. They're on the roads. They're getting 9 at-bats, which, you know, is always nice. Yeah, the park hurts power. But to your point, Soto can hit it out. Tatis can hit it out. You know, they're really, really talented. And also, there's only a couple like actual spots on the slate where you're like, I like everything about it. That spot is Cincinnati, essentially. So it's not like, you know, you had 5 or 6 teams where you're just like, I don't know how they failed. There's nothing wrong here. And then you're talking about the Padres in San Francisco.
Based on the weather report that I'm looking at right now, which is probably the same one you would look at, 25-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out to dead center.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. But it's always less aggressive to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's why they built the park the way they did.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. They should like highlight that in a different way because I could see people looking at that and just thinking like, "Oh man, this is the spot."
Well, I mean, the old Texas Stadium used to be the worst because not only like here, at least you can just go into the Giants games knowing that the park is built for the wind not to matter. In Texas, you would get the wind's blowing in at 20 miles an hour and not realize
that was like a launch pad.
That the wind is blowing out at 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. Anything for the Giants bats?
Not really. Waka's just a serviceable pitcher. If you go to the Giants, it's simply they're low owned. They have quality hitters, but nothing that stands out.
Anything you want to add before we bounce on over to Live Before Lock?
I mean, just I guess to reiterate the way I felt the entire show. Slates like this are fun. You're probably going to be pretty uncomfortable with the lineups that you make, or you're going to be eating the Reds, which isn't the worst idea. But just go with it, enjoy it, hope that chalk doesn't hit for once.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Hit that like button. Don't go anywhere. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. Thanks to Jordan for producing. Thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring. We're out of here. Peace.
Yo, it's a new week, which means another edition of inducting you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here on the Stochastic YouTube channel and giving out some free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum to everyone who qualified, $120 value. And all you got to do to get involved, go to stochastic.com/avatar, download the profile picture, use it wherever it is you play. And if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, tweet your wins to us at Stochastic HOF. Get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And let's get into it for the week. First up, Jordan Frank. Sad that the NBA season is ending, but not a bad way to close it out. $75,000 to Jordan Frank in the NBA Showdown final game of the season. Shout out to Jordan. Huge win there. And how about Adam Scherer back on the board? Ship My Money DFS. Yeah, you've heard of him. Second place in the night GPP 2 nights ago and first place last night. Still got a long way to climb back, but got to celebrate him when you can. $27,500 for our boy Ship My Money. And Timothy, we'll just go by Timmy, as a matter of fact. I'm not even going to try. I don't care for the free month, and I would change the logo, but I like to have something different so I can see where I'm at quickly. But these stochastic tools off the hook, and the new Sims tool, don't even get me started. 3 days using, 2 nice wins with the new MLB Sim tool. 2,500, 4,000 there in the 4-seamer and the mini max. Congrats, Timmy. Nice wins. And Tall Tale, been a great season. Thanks to Stochastic and thanks to all the Discord brethren. $4,000 for Tall Tale. And Golden Child, FanDuel Fantasy Takedown, 1,600 to A Baker, 82 to close out the NBA season, but it keeps going. We got more. Dave Oliver, best tools and advice, hands down. Thank you, guys. 5,000 in the Friday MLB rally, followed up by BST. BST Rans? BS Trans? $2,000. Thanks to everybody at Stochastic. Second place in the 4-seamer. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, fella. And Katzler, big night in the NBA streets for me last night. Thanks to all the advice and content. Nice. Few big wins there for Katzler and a few more. Keith, PJ Showdown, 5K short game, $150 to Keith. And in the guard, not a full banker Hall of Fame worthy. We'll throw you up here anyway, brother. But all made possible by the PGA lineup generator. Yeah, you guys know, less than $4.50 for the first week. And we wrap it up with our friend Johnny Footballs. Hopefully this qualifies. Field size was 9,500. Love the content. The banter prior and during each show is just as, if not more valuable. Congrats, Johnny, and everyone else. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted, and welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, rep the avatar, stochastic.com/avatar. Wherever it is you play, tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF. Get up here, get the free month, and get inducted, and we'll see you back here for the next one.
Your Roslin impressions still
going on?
Your baseline is starting by what's going on PGA DFS fans, but then you're trying to transition it to baseball, so then it just goes into him talking about baseball also.
It's not PGA DFS NBA fans.
Did we start the show, by the way, Jordan?
Yeah, we did. We're live.
Did we start? All right, what's going on, guys? MLB Live before lock. Eric is here, so him and I just shooting the shit before, trying to have a good time, talking about our day, and apparently Jordan just decides to start the show. I kind of saw in the corner of my eye that he was doing the countdown, but I wasn't really paying that much attention to him, to be honest. So we started the show. We're sponsored by Prize Picks today. As you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, check out the Twitter giveaway that we're doing right now, because if you guys head on over to @Stochastic MLB on Twitter, STOKASTIC MLB, we have a giveaway going on right. Oh, by the way, I screwed up. It's stochastic_com. It's not our Stochastic MLB handle. Fuck me. All right.
Way to go.
Stochastic_com is where the giveaway is at. If Corbin Burns records at least one strikeout today, we're going to be doing a giveaway. One lucky winner will receive a free 1-week platinum pass to stochastic.com. All you have to do is follow @Stochastic MLB and @Stochastic_com on Twitter and like the tweet they just posted out. That is it. That is all you have to do. If you follow those few steps, which is going to take you only about a second of time, you have a chance to get 1 free week of a platinum pass. And there we go. That is going to help you guys out potentially, right? Chance for a giveaway, 0 cost to you. So go check that out by following our Stochastic Twitter account and just liking that tweet that is there. Eric, what is going on with you today? And how was your weekend? Did you celebrate Father's Day?
Yeah. So Father's Day, I mean, you're my daddy, so it is what it is. Just celebrated you. Felt good about it. No reaction whatsoever to that.
No, nothing else to say?
You didn't even react to it, though. Jordan Klein just immediately. You can't even get over it. No, I was hanging out with the in-laws. It was great. Yeah, got a lot of stuff in the works here. Got the first ever MLB Lindy's Pick'em leans, likes, and locks. Got the locks update, my second one of those, over on twitter.com. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist. Go check that out as well. So many good things, so little time, but now I kind of shift. You get all the bets in, you get everything over on Prize Picks, which I'm sweating. I think I need 0.5 more from Nolan Arenado in some way, shape, or form, and I could have some really good cards coming into the evening. So hopefully I can find some way, somehow he can score here. That would be awesome.
And like I was saying to Eric before the show starts, in short order, Eric is going to have the most Twitter followers of anybody in the history of Twitter.
Stop it.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You guys should jump on that train.
Who's number one, Lady Gaga or Kim Kardashian, or who is it? It's like one of those two, right? Who's the most Twitter followers?
I want to say it's Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift. Who has the most Twitter followers?
Elon Musk, of course.
Oh, but that's probably let's see.
Probably should have started there.
Most followed accounts on Twitter. Number 1 is Elon Musk. 2 is Barack Obama. 3 is Justin Bieber. 4 is Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's pretty wild. People like the football in other places.
I guess it makes sense that it was. I know at one point it was like Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande or something. Maybe I'm totally screwing that up. But no. Hey, that's the number 1 followed right now. So that's your barometer. I'm saying it right now. Elon Musk has how many Twitter followers? 143 million.
It's more than one.
Eric catches him within a week or so.
Stop it.
Within give or take a few days. Go follow Eric on Twitter. He's posting betting content there. It's going to be good stuff. It's going to take off. I was texting him that before. Got a super chat here. Time to talk about some baseball. Ace of Spade saying DK tiers, who are our favorite options. If you wouldn't mind, Eric, could you
already did it?
Josh Engleman. Okay.
Already did it. I was prepared.
All right. So let's start breaking down some of these tiers. And as per usual, there are some stacks that could be made within the DK tiers. Starting with tier 1. Where was Josh leaning in this one?
It's got a dead tie between Tatis and Soto. I like both of them very much tonight. I think the Padres are going very much slept on. I think there's also some interesting run back on the other side where you could try to attack them, the Padres. I just think they're going a little bit slept on here in this spot, and he's got them 1-2 above Seager and Simeon. I love Seager and Simeon too, so it's the tier 1's a disaster for me.
Tier 1, there's a lot of ways to go because the Rangers are one of my most roster stacks. The Padres, we'll talk about in a little bit. My single entry stack today, it is the San Diego Padres.
They're my single entry stack today too.
I'll tell you what you did not like was my single entry stack the last time we did this show together.
Thank God it didn't win anything.
No, you were wrong. They were the highest scoring team of the slate at less than 1% ownership.
But you didn't win anything. You didn't win.
Yeah, I did. Kind of did.
Oh, okay,
kind of did.
Never mind.
Yeah, but they were the Detroit Tigers. The last time Eric and I did a show together, I was talking about playing them in single entry. Eric was beside himself, absolutely beside himself. Started full-blown tears, snot coming out of his nose. He was so upset that I was playing the Tigers in single entry. And then, less than 1% on, they end up being the highest scoring team on the slate. That aside, for me in tier 1, it is really tough. I agree with you. I'm actually going to go with Corey Seager as my answer, just because more possible stacking combinations with the Rangers in here. But I don't think you could really go wrong with any of the options in tier 1. My answer is going to be Corey Seager. And that is why also in tier 2, I like Adolis Garcia as my favorite option. But who are you looking at in tier 2 per some of the rankings that Josh posted on Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, Adolis Garcia is a great guy to be targeting here. He's the number 1 player Josh has as well. Devers, Buxton. Tier 1's still just such a headache. I'm trying to even figure out what I would answer for that because I love all 4 players there. Here, it's pretty clearly, I think, for me, Adolis Garcia.
All right. Adolis Garcia, we're on the same page. Tier 3 now. Tier 3, we've got a bunch of different options we could go to. None of them are going to correlate with the stacks we have in tier 1 or tier 2. So I'm going with Ellie De La Cruz, who popped up in the most lineups for me. But yourself?
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz for sure.
All right, Ellie De La Cruz, tier 4. Now another one, tier 4. We're not going to be able to get any Rangers in here, which is where I was leaning for some of my other tiers. But We've got Xander Bogaerts. We've got Manny Machado. I'm going to be going with Manny Machado in tier 4. So if in tier 1 you wanted to go with Tatis, you wanted to go with Juan Soto, you could go with Manny Machado in tier 5. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, so Josh has Bellinger and Reynolds higher ranked, but I would be going Machado as well.
Tier 5 now. Tier 5, here's where we could get a little bit more correlation with Elly De La Cruz in tier 3, because I think there are a couple of Reds players towards the top that showed up most predominantly for me. That is Matt McLain and Jonathan India. I'm going to go with McLain here. I don't have an issue with either of them, but is there anybody else that stands out to you? Or are you going to be focused on the Reds in tier 5 as well?
They are so clearly the best two to get to. If you were trying to get contrarian, I suppose you could go to Luis Robert, but I feel as though McLain or India are almost like, I'm not going to call them musts, but they'll be the pronounced chalk, and they should be.
Tier 6, so the final tier of the entire slate, and this is also where I think we get more exposure to the Reds, so I'm going to go with Spencer Steer just to correlate with some of the other Cincinnati players.
Yep. Done.
All right. That is going to do it for us with Tiers Ace of Spade. Thank you again for the super chat. I've got another super chat here from Brandon Wagner. Brandon saying that he's just swapped off the Rangers to the White Sox for his single entry and satellite entries on DK. Is that a bad move in your opinion? Should be going with the Rangers or the White Sox?
I like both teams. All we've talked about are the teams that I like today. Like, I love the White Sox, and that's not something that I think anybody, including White Sox fans, have said this year. I like the Rangers a ton. I like the Padres a ton. My single entry team would be one of those threes, no doubt about it.
I'm going to say, like, if it has to be one or the other, I'm going to tell you to go with the Rangers. I get considerably more exposure to them than I do to the White Sox. In fact, running my lineups through the Sims that we have over at Stochastic, which if you guys haven't checked it out, we do have a link below to sign up for them. But that's the team I'm getting the most exposure to as of now on DK. It is the Texas Rangers for the purposes of large field tournaments. Earlier in the day, I was doing a video, which I ran through the exposure I was getting to earlier, and the Twins were my most rostered team. But here's what's changed from now versus earlier. Earlier in the day, James Paxton was projected for north of 30% ownership. Now his ownership is about half of what it was earlier. So as a trickle-down effect, not only does Paxton become somebody that makes it into more of my lineups, but the Twins end up making it into less of my lineups. That's how big of an impact ownership projections and how much we're expecting players to be owned can have an impact in how we're viewing optimal lineups. So end up getting to less of the Twins. Still one of my more rostered teams, but not quite as much as before. But the Rangers the team I'm getting to the most in large field tournaments. So Brandon, I'm going to say that I think you should be playing your Rangers stack instead of the White Sox. Now, I don't know what the other opportunity costs are. I don't know how that impacted the pitchers or what else in your lineup. But all things put together, I prefer the Rangers over the White Sox today. And it seems like you're on the same page.
Yes. But I like the White Sox.
Okay. If anybody's any more questions for us, head on into our Discord chat and at myself, at Eric. We can answer some of those questions over the course of the show. And one already in here from Just Locks wants to know, who's our favorite pitcher for FanDuel GPPs? So time to start talking about some pitchers here, Eric, and starting with Justin's question. If you're playing one pitcher on FanDuel, which you're only playing one for FanDuel anyway, but if you're playing a FanDuel large field GPP right now, who is the pitcher do you think that Justin should be rostering?
Max Scherzer. I am pretty aligned with Max Scherzer at 9K. We're talking about a salary discrepancy. I mean, Max Scherzer's middle of the board today. You have Corbin Burns, Merrill Kelly, James Paxton, Michael Wacha, Hunter Brown, Pablo Lopez, all $600 or more expensive than Max Scherzer. Now, you're not getting any kind of positive leverage, but I like enough contrarian teams on this slate that if I'm going the direction of one pitcher to rule them all and one pitcher to find them, I think he's the guy that I'm starring, highlighting, circling, especially with the way that lineup came out here for the Astros. No Mauricio Dubon, who is a 12, 13% K rate guy. You're taking him away from the leadoff spot. You only have one lefty in that lineup. And if you go back to 2022 or any other season besides this one, the numbers Max Scherzer has against righties are just foolish. You're getting 8 of them in this Houston lineup. I feel pretty confident that Max Scherzer is going to be my highest owned pitcher as I finish up all of my sims and everything that I'm looking at here. It is so full steam ahead for the Mets from Max Scherzer's perspective here today. Yeah.
So for me, it's not even close for me on FanDuel because when I was running all my lineups through my process, uploading through our simulation tool, I ended up getting to north of 50% of Andrew Heaney, and it's a single pitcher site. So with that in mind, it's clearly him. So Andrew Heaney is projected for almost no ownership on FanDuel today. He's projected for 3% ownership right now. And he is the pitcher that we have projected to be just by far with the most positive leverage. And there's a clear upside with Andrew Heaney. He's going up against the White Sox. It's not to say the White Sox don't have some upside on the other side of the game, but Andrew Heaney is a pitcher who generates a lot of strikeouts. He's projected for no ownership. And the White Sox offense, like we said, even though there is some upside there, it's been fairly a shitty offense over the course of the season. So it would not be shocking to me at all to see Andrew Heaney go out and post a decent game. And the only way Andrew Heaney could have decent games is via strikeouts. Because if he gives up contact, it generally tends to be really hard contact. It's been the case for him over the entire course of his career. And he's always been an above average strikeout pitcher. So if you're weighing his upside versus what his ownership is, I think that's the guy to look at in FanDuel and large field tournaments. If you want to be safe, the answer is an Andrew Heaney. But I'm playing a bunch of Heaney on both FanDuel and DraftKings, and I really like him as a tournament play.
Yeah, I only made the one lineup on FanDuel today, just like I did on the show last week. I want to make sure that I'm still going through the process there, but Andrew Heaney is one of my highest. He's my third highest owned pitcher over on DK today. It's Scherzer 1, James Paxton 2, and then him 3. I am pretty positive that's going to be the way that it shakes out in the next 40 minutes as we finish everything up.
Yeah, so Andrew Heaney, that is going to be my answer for you, Justin. And I appreciate the question. Anybody else has questions in Discord? At us, because it's one of the perks that you get of being a Stochastic Plus Platinum member is you're in our Discord channel. You can bug us whenever you want, and it's no bother, really. Super chat here from Clintwood83, who wants it. Well, it's a bother to Josh Engleman, not a bother to me or to Eric Lindquist.
What else are we doing? Yeah.
Super chat from Clintwood83 wants to know, do you stack lineups in cash, double ups? So I don't play cash games typically for baseball. Like every once in a while, there's a slate where it's like, oh, this lineup has come together to me, or there might be overlay I'll see in some 50-50s. So to be just totally transparent, I very rarely play cash lineups. I think it's different slate to slate, right? Like there's going to be some Coors Field games where the entire Coors Field is projected for, like 30-40% ownership, and those guys are going to be massively popular in cash games. So it's going to depend. Like it's not a one size fits all for every single slate, but if there's one team that's expected to be especially popular, like the Reds today, I wouldn't have an issue with the Reds stack in cash.
I would not have a problem with that either. They are nearly a 6 implied run total, and yeah, there's no way you wouldn't probably get to at least 4 of them in cash.
So let's go ahead and start talking about some of the other pitchers that we've not yet hit on, Eric. So we talked about Max Scherzer being a pitcher that you really like for FanDuel. I assume the same is for DraftKings. And then also Andrew Heaney is somebody who I really like for tournaments. Brought him up for FanDuel. Still really like him for DraftKings. But let's talk about the other popular pitchers, because there are 3 guys projected for right around 30% ownership today. Max Scherzer, he's the most popular, 32.4%. Then you got Corbin Burnes at 29.7%, Pablo Lopez at 29.6%. So it seems Max Scherzer is your favorite of this trio. Would that be correct to assume?
Yeah, it sucks too, because this was not the case earlier today. And now it just seems like me, along with the public, and everybody's just jumping on Scherzer in this spot. And again, the DeBuan difference is actually ginormous. That would be 2, maybe 3 at bats, where you're taking a guy out of the lineup with a 13% K rate, would have been the best on the team in this specific lineup. Bregman, Tucker, they never strike out. We know exactly what we're getting with them, but this whole back half of the lineup is just attackable, whether it's, Jokes or Myers hasn't really mattered. They're both striking about the exact same amount this season. Yenner Diaz is not going to strike out a ton, I think, at the big league level based on his AAA numbers. He has pretty resounding reverse splits right on right, although Scherzer should still get the best of that one. I just look at the back half of this Houston lineup, and Scherzer should be able to exploit them. So given that, I think it's going to be a good spot to attack. I just wish the ownership wasn't there the way that it is now. And that's where James Paxton has now kind of just ridden up the board here. He's got a 33% K rate. He's the guy when it comes to strikeouts on this slate. You just need to avoid everything else. This Minnesota lineup is not imposing in any way, shape, or form. They're my team. And I look at Michael A. Taylor and Joey Gallo. Those are 2 bats that we know their entire careers have struck out over a third of the time. Royce Lewis, 33.9% so far this season. Will Castro, Byron Buxton, north of 30%. I don't see how James Paxton doesn't have the most upside of any individual arm from a strikeout perspective.
Yeah, if you look at Paxton this year, and he's going to be inconsistent. I feel fairly confident saying that going forward. He's looked great so far, but it's only been 32 innings. And, the last time we saw him relatively healthy was 2 years ago with the Yankees. He had a 6.64 ERA, 4.2 unexpected ERA. He's been great. He looks healthy. I think it helps that he hasn't pitched a full season since 2019. So it's been 4 years since Paxton's been out there. Time to rest and recover. I assume he's going to get hurt at some point later on in the season. For now, though, I like getting to Paxton. I like stacking against him as well. I love, though, that his ownership has come down from earlier in the day. He's no longer projected for around 30% ownership. We've got him at 18.8% on DraftKings. We've got Paxton at 7.4% on FanDuel. So that makes him a pitcher I really do like getting overweight to the field too in tournaments. One makes sense to play both sides and stack against him a little bit as well. But if you're playing one lineup now and you had to pick a side, I prefer James Paxton's side to the Twins offense. And I do think that relative to the ownership, and I know this is a little unfair because I asked you to pick between Scherzer, Corbin Burnes, and Pablo Lopez, and now I'm just going off the board with somebody else who wasn't mentioned there. The point being, though, is I really like James Paxton as a pivot at about half the ownership of these guys as a priority.
Agreed. And he's got the highest K rate on the slate. If you throw out the Beto character from Pittsburgh, a 1 game, 4 inning sample size, we're not going to count that. James Paxton, 32 innings, 3.10 xFIP. As you said, I think there are going to be times he does get hit up as a decent 12.1% home run per fly ball ratio. I mean, he's had worse in his career. He's a fly ball pitcher, just a 32.9% ground ball rate this season. But the times that he's not getting hit hard, it's going to be beautiful. And you're going to run into some absolutely ridiculous outings. In terms of upside, he's just the guy that I was always going to be overweight to. And then Scherzer, I thought made a really easy plug and play. And now the ownership started to come up. We'll see if that ends up finishing out still as one of the highest owned. But considering how much Heaney I have, and then how many contrarian stacks I'm playing between the White Sox, the Padres, pieces like that, I don't think it'll be too hard for me to get to the pitchers that I just flat out want to play.
And then not sure if you answered this or not, or if I just kind of am forgetting, but between Scherzer, Corbin Burnes, Pablo Lopez, do you have a least favorite of those three?
I'm worried Corbin Burnes, just going up against Arizona. They've been a pretty Corbin Burnes has been back to Corbin Burnes stuff. Like, that's been an enjoyable experience. I know he's your guy. He won you tons of money when you and I first started doing shows together, winning that NL Cy Young Award. You were early to the party on him. That's your boy. But Arizona's got a 107 WRC plus against righties on the season, a 176 ISO. I traditionally just play the best pitchers available. And usually you'll run into some ownership discounts in that kind of a spot. But I think out of those pitchers, he could end up being the one who gets steamed up the most. Like, we could get to the flip. And if I played 30% Corbin Burnes right now, or 35% Corbin Burnes, and was just holding hands with the field, I think I'd be pretty upset knowing that James Paxton probably going to be sub 20, 25% no matter what.
Yeah. And I mean, if we just look at some of the numbers, like you said, with Corbin Burnes, got off to a slow start relative to expectations for Corbin Burnes, and has been way better in the month of June. Now, with that said, if I go and I look at our Sims tool and I look at my lineups and I look at the leverage column, the player I am most underweight to on the entire slate is Corbin Burnes. We've got projected for 30% ownership, and I have him less than 10% of my lineup. So that leverage score, pretty negative for me there. I'm not getting to very much of Corbin Burnes, so he's my least favorite of those pitchers. And the two pitchers I have the most exposure to right now are Andrew Heaney and James Paxton. Now, if we look through the other contrarian pitching options, you and I have both said that we like Andrew Heaney. We're both going to be overweight to James Paxton. Is there anybody else on the board that you're looking at a pitcher as somebody who you want to have any meaningful amount of exposure to?
I mean, do we want to have the Heaney conversation again? Because I love the White Sox. I love Andrew Heaney. It's another both sides of it. The ownership's so low on Heaney. It's so low on Paxton that I feel like firing up both sides of it is just like a positive EV thing to do long-term. You know, you want to be stacking generally, or you want to be stacking against some of the more popular pitchers just for leverage sake. And there are people who just do that no matter what. It could be a 3 or a 4 implied total. Doesn't matter. People are just going to always stack it relative to some of these other offenses, and they're going to scoop on the days that happens. You're going to run into some really rough stretches, but I think there's definitely these times when Andrew Heaney has the kind of K rate north of 24% this season. With the Dodgers last year, it was really pronounced. I don't know if we get back to that version of Andrew Heaney again, but I think this White Sox team is definitely exploitable They've been exploitable pretty much all season long. There are some decent enough righties, whether it's Robert, whether it's Jimenez, but otherwise, I mean, there's just not a lot here. Jake Berger is just smashing baseballs, 16 homers now on the season, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Heaney give up 8, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him mow down everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same page with Heaney. Like I said, him and Paxton, my 2 most rostered pitchers on the slate. Anybody outside of them, though, I kind of mean, like, outside of the pitchers we've talked about, is there anybody that to you is any kind of a priority? There's one guy I really dislike that I'm going to bring up in a second that I'm hardly getting any exposure to. But outside of like the top guys that are picking up ownership, outside of Heaney, Paxton, are there any other pitchers at low ownership that you think are worth getting into a good portion of lineups?
I don't know about into a good portion of lineups. That's probably not the right way of putting it. I'm getting to Beto. I am. He had decent enough stuff at AAA Indianapolis. Not great ERA, not great whip, but can definitely get strikeouts. And I think at 5,600, you could do worse against the Chicago Cubs than trying to make him a thing today. I don't think that goes well for you a majority of the time, but there's no ownership going there. Technically, he leads this slate in K rate, which is a hilarious thing to say out loud, but I don't expect what we saw against the Cubs last time around to be what we see this time around, where he had the 6 strikeouts right off the bat, but it's at least in the range of outcomes. I think he's probably the cheap pitcher that I'm willing to get to a little bit, but I'm not getting to Williamson. I'm really not getting to anybody sitting at Drew Smyly or below. I think Drew Smyly, as good as he's been, just from a real life perspective, 6,500, I feel like I would just go below him to Beto on the other side if I had to take a shot on somebody at current ownership.
Here's somebody I want to talk about because I'm just kind of confused by the ownership in general. I'm not getting to very much of him. Merrill Kelly, who's having a really good year, but he's on the road in Milwaukee, which is hitter-friendly park. He's projected for 22% ownership on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, on a single pitcher site where he's 10,500, he's projected for 10% ownership. I don't understand how the field is getting to Kelly in this big of a way. Now, I understand that he's having by far what I would consider to be the best year of his career. He's off to a really good start, but like he's picking up more ownership than James Paxton at a more expensive price point. He's not that far behind Corbin Burns and Pablo Lopez in terms of ownership. And he got Merrill Kelly here. He's now 34 years old, so definitely on the older side. And while he does have the 3.04 ERA, the underlying numbers suggest there's regression coming from Merrill Kelly, and I just don't expect it to keep up. He's a 4.05 expected ERA compared to the 3.04 ERA. The big issue with him, in terms of why we'd expect him to be worse going forward, he has a 249 BABIP, which is not sustainable in any kind of way. So I expect some regression to come for Merrill Kelly, and he's projected for 22% ownership, like I said, on DraftKings and 10% ownership on FanDuel on a slate that is fairly loaded at pitcher, and he's just as expensive as anybody on the slate. What are you doing with Merrill Kelly? Do you see it differently than me?
I generally love Merrill Kelly. I'm not getting to him on this slate. It has more to do with Paxton is there. 7% better K percentage. I think a better spot. There's just other options that I prefer. It's not that I dislike him here. I don't think this Milwaukee lineup is anything all that tumultuous. An 87 WRC plus against righties, and they do have 25.7% K rate against that handedness. That's second highest on the slate next to the Twins against righties. They're facing a lefty today, so that doesn't really matter. I want to amend one thing in the chat. Jack Swales. There's not a single hitter in the Arizona lineup with an above 22% K percentage. Like the opposite of what you're saying. You said 5 players with 30% or higher K percentages. There's literally nobody. Alec Thomas coming back into this lineup, 22%. He's highest on the season. So I don't know what you're looking at. I just pulled up Savant to make sure that maybe their data wasn't uploading incorrectly, but no, it's just, you're not right. You need to refresh whatever you're looking at.
All right, there we go. Eric coming in, calling people out in the chat for having
No, I'm just saying, he said 5. They have 5 players with over a 30% K rate. They don't. They literally have the opposite. They have nobody above 22%. That's wild.
Yeah, it's very, very low strikeouts as a team.
Yes.
Very low.
And we're not getting to Corbin Burns, so we're okay with that.
Yeah. And by the way, Corbin Burns, one of my guys here. If people were playing him, I wouldn't say it's like a travesty or anything. I am just not, because there's other guys priced around him that I prefer that are lower owned. He's still going to be, somewhat popular today. So I'm looking elsewhere. I get why people are into Corbin Burns, but like you said, it isn't really true that they have a lot of strikeouts to be had in the lineup. It's a fairly low strikeout lineup that they have out there for today. Anything else you want to talk about at pitcher for this slate?
I caught the tail end of the last show. Are those guys looking at punting with Mr. Keaton Wynn today? Is that somebody that was getting thrown around at 4K flat? Because he did play 55 pitches in his last, what would it be, long reliever appearance there. He's been in AAA Sacramento. I never look at PCL numbers, but like, I think he had a pretty decent strikeout rate there. It's just so hard to know what you're going to be running into because, well, basically everybody gets hit up regardless of how good you are in the PCL because you play in frickin' Albuquerque and Reno and on the moon and all of that stuff. So looking at some of his stuff, I'm pulling up his minor league numbers. 1.65 whip. He looks terrible in that regard, but 51 strikeouts and 41 and a third. That is that's decent.
Yeah, I'm looking through his minor league numbers right now, and he had a decent strikeout rate this year. It was terrible last year, though. Last year he was getting no swing and misses. So last year in Double-A, he had an 18.8% K rate, which is fairly miserable. 27.1% this year. Yeah, we've got very little data on him at the big leagues. He's pitched 4 total innings. So, who knows what to make of that. Did seem to show decent stuff, though. 96 mile per hour average fastball velocity. But no, he's not making it into my lineups right now.
Okay, just wanted to throw him out there. I'm not going to be doing it either, but I just caught the very tail end of that. And Adam, generally when he gets caught by surprise from something in the last 5-10 minutes, because that's about all I can really stand to watch Adam these days. I kind of like at least take pause in it because once upon a time he used to be good at DFS.
Listen, the times are changing. Eric's the king of Twitter now. He's the king of
I am the captain now.
Yeah, I am the captain now. That is Eric Lindquist. Are we ready to build some lineups on the MLB lineup generator now?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's move on from pitchers, and we'll talk about the MLB lineup generator, which if you guys are starting in MLB DFS, this is the easiest tool for an intro-level player to DFS MLB or just DFS in total. And what you're going to find in the MLB lineup generator is lineups that are made for you based on some of the simulations we have at Stokastic.com. You can make up to 20 of them for DraftKings FanDuel and upload them directly to those sites and enter them into contests. And here's the best part about it, Eric. If you sign up right now for the first time using the link we have below, you get access for less than $5. Pretty good and reasonable price tag. So if you guys want to sign up for the first time, use that link below, get access for less than $5. Let's make DraftKings lineups to start, Jordan, and then we're going to build out FanDuel ones. What kind of settings do you want to use here, Eric? Do you want to go contrarian, balanced, or chalky tonight?
Let's go balanced today. I mean, contrarian generally is how I play. We try to find points of leverage. You don't need to play only the most contrarian pieces. You can do it with your 5-man stacks and single entry. That's probably going to be a good thing over a long sample size, but let's look at some balanced for a change.
By the way, we got a super chat. You can just keep the same ones up. It's not a big deal, Jordan.
I still love you.
Yeah.
Even if you're a complete failure and wasted our fucking time.
Was the audience able to hear Jordan just now, by the way?
Yeah, I'm sure they did. His absolute dunce cappery.
All right. But no, Jordan, I will not take my clothes off on show. We got a super chat here from Phil Still. Phil said he had to hop in the shower. Is the Cincinnati game still good? I like the idea like it was raining on him in the shower. So it just occurred to him. He's like, oh my God, is it raining in Cincinnati? Yeah, there's a chance of some rain in the forecast, but nothing that I think is too problematic. So maybe they start the game late, but I think it should play. It's not anything I'm really factoring in.
Not factoring it in at all.
All right, let's look at some of these lineups that Jordan has informed us that he already built before the show. All right, well, he's back at it. He's back at it, building more lineups. Let's see what came up for Jordan. Interesting. We got two, but what settings did you end up using for this, Jordan? Did you go balanced, contrarian, and chalky?
Wow, he's sassy now too.
All
Can you believe this?
So we got Jordan right here, built out some lineups, and they look massively chalky. We've got a ton of reds popping up here. At pitcher, we've got Max Scherzer's the most popular pitcher. We got Pablo Lopez as the second most popular pitcher. That's why I asked if Jordan had checked the chalk setting out here, because this looks like all of the chalk on the entire slate, which, by the way, if you guys want to play some chalky lineups, I do think this is a pretty good barometer to get an idea of who the most popular players are. because if you go in here and you look at these lineups, 5 Reds as our 5 most popular hitters, then Max Scherzer, then Pablo Lopez. This is nothing but the chalk here. I'm not playing a lot of the chalk today, but if you guys want to go play the chalk, this is what it is. Before somebody had asked about playing a cash game lineup and stacking the Reds, this is about who you'd be targeting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Keep scrolling down, Jordan. I'm kind of curious to see what else popped up there. So there's some Paxton. Paxton's the one player who's not projected for a massive amount of ownership that we got in lineups. He's projected for sub 20% ownership. We got to him to 37%. It looks like our second most roster stack here is actually the Rockies, which maybe a little bit surprising me, but Randall Grichuk, Ryan McMahon, Elias Diaz. Yeah, so a lot of exposure to the Reds there. They're the most popular team on the slate. We're going to be talking about them a little bit more in a second, but just as an intro to this, and Jordan, you can start building out FanDuel lineups. So I ask Eric this question. What are you doing with the Reds? Are you going to be overweight to the field to them, at the field, or underweight?
I'm going to be underweight.
Yeah, same.
And I like them. I do. I bet the over of this game. It moved drastically. 9.5 yesterday, sitting at 10.5, some spots, some 10s as well. I think there's a lot of ways where that still can happen, and we still don't run into them as the team you must have. It's just too much ownership. It doesn't really need to be overcomplicated. There are going to be a lot of times they put up 6 or 7 runs and you don't need them and don't want them. And I think that this ballpark, this spot, it's the best spot. Not really going to argue that whatsoever on the entire slate. It's got the largest implied total. It's got everything going for it. Besides, everybody's freaking playing it. So play Texas.
Yeah, it is a lot of ownership going here. And when I posted my video earlier in the day, when I was running through the sims and my process and the amount of exposure I get everywhere, I had 4% of the Reds. It doesn't mean I think it's a bad spot for them. It's just a lot of ownership in tournaments, and I'm going to be looking elsewhere. Like, I'm not playing them in single entry, large field tournaments, way undercutting them. Not to the point where I play 0% of them, but definitely a team that I think is a little bit overowned. But yeah, if you're just building some chalkier lineups, you're going to end up getting to a lot of Reds here. And also seeing what we ended up getting to for FanDuel purposes, we actually did get to about a comparable amount of Reds and Twin stacks. I do have more exposure to the Twins than I do to the Reds as far as pitchers. We're getting to a good amount of Pablo Lopez here. Let's see who else we end up getting to a pitcher. Max Scherzer for FanDuel. And then there's some Corbin Burns, although a little bit less in the field. Hunter Brown, Merrill Kelly. So a little bit spread out on pitcher at FanDuel in these lineups that we got to. What do you make of the Twins as a FanDuel stack, considering that this is a team that it seems like we're getting to even more than the Reds over for FanDuel purposes?
I get it. There's a lot of expensive pitchers that exist on the slate. Sorry. I feel like Andrew Heaney's a guy that, you could go down to as well. Scherzer's 9K. I'm much more inclined to go their direction. You don't need the Twin savings. And if they're going to be showing up anyway, positively leverage, that'd be one thing, but I'm just pulling up FanDuel here now again for it. I never really remotely thought that the Twins were interesting on this slate for FanDuel purposes. Guess there's a tiny bit of positive leverage coming in their direction, but I repeat, Texas, tons of positive leverage, way better top stack score in the top stacks tool. I would do everything I could to get away from that. If it's going to be something that's showing up quite a bit in the lineup generator, I would probably discard a lot of those, and I would try to turn those into Texas, getting away from Cincinnati as well, trying to turn that into like other high upside stacks. Like again, San Diego, just massively slept on FanDuel. And like I said before, if you guys want to sign up for this, if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to hand build MLB lineups, you're playing for low stakes, but you just want some good lineups that are super easy to sort through and have lineups provided for you, check out our MLB lineup generator tool and you get access for less than $5. But now let's talk about Prize Picks. They're sponsoring our show today. You've got the shirt on, Eric. You got the Prize Picks on in the background. I know you're a big proponent of Prize Picks, and one of the reasons you guys should sign up there if you haven't already is because not only are you going to get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit if you sign up using our link, but you are also going to get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So all of our baseball data, projections, ownership projections, you can have that at your fingertips just by signing up at Prize Picks using our link. Have you built out Prize Picks cards today, Eric? Sure have. I introduced, if you guys watch Odd Shopper Monday through Friday, not just MLB, anything that exists on the Pick'em sites, whether that is Prize Picks or other places, I'm going to be breaking it down for you, finding my favorite leans, likes, locks from it, trying to put together some of these bigger cards. Again, there's correlation that I think can definitely come in handy when you're talking about MLB, but there are some absolute hammers on Prize Picks today. Would you like to guess Marcus Semien hitter fantasy score for today?
I am going to guess 7.5.
I hate you. You just looked it up. You're the worst.
I didn't look it up. Jordan put it on screen.
Yeah, absolute stone cold worst, Jordan Klein. I hate
Jordan.
you so
Look at like, what am I
much.
supposed to do? I'm
God.
looking at you because we're having a conversation, and then Jordan puts it up on screen. So how am I not supposed to figure it out?
So annoying.
I'm guessing you like the over.
I like the over.
I agree with you. I think the over looks pretty good for Marcus Semien.
I'm playing with Corey
else.
Seager at 8.5. Play them together.
Okay. Corey Seager at 8.5. So you could, is there like a max amount of players from the same team?
2.
You could 2? Yep. You're getting good correlation there. So Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, also 2 players that, well, at least Corey Seager we liked for tiers purposes before. So I do think that definitely makes some sense there. As for other props that I think stand out based on our projections over at Stokastic.com in our Pick'em Pro Tool, which also you get access to for less than $5 when you sign up for the first time using the link below. A number that we have that is standing out here, and there's a few, but I'm going to give out one that we talked about before. Corbin Burnes under 6.5 strikeouts. So Corbin Burnes, we have projected for slightly over 6.2. But the other thing here is, like you had mentioned before, there are just not a lot of hitters in this Diamondbacks lineup that strike out a whole bunch. I know Corbin Burnes has been better as of late, but his strikeout numbers by and large are way down for the entire season. So against a team that isn't striking out a ton, I'm good with under 6.5 strikeouts for Corbin Burnes here. Do you feel good about that one, or is the line too close that you'd rather pass?
Just to repeat, Arizona, 3rd best at avoiding strikeouts in baseball against right-handed pitching, with 0 players in today's projected lineup with a K rate above 22%. They are ridiculous at avoiding strikeouts. Why wouldn't I like that? I definitely love that.
So there we go. We got Corbin Burnes under 6.5, courtesy of our Pick'em Pro Tool. Is there anything else do you really want to bring up here for Prize Picks? If not, it's cool. We've got a 3-leg flex.
Oh, I got you. Jonathan India, 7.5 hitter fantasy score. Yet another fantasy score that I think you definitely want to be taking advantage of. It's just really low, or that's a really low projection in a spot against Austin Gomber. For every reason that we just said, hey, I want to be avoiding Cincinnati, I don't want to be avoiding them on Prize Picks with Jonathan India batting 3rd in this lineup, in this ballpark at 7.5. He can put up 10, he can put up 14, and it's probably not going to completely torch you on a day like today. So Jonathan India, just do that for us.
All right, there we go. Jonathan India. We've got some Reds in there. We've got the Rangers. We've got a Corbin Burnes under. So there we go. That is going to wrap up Prize Picks for us. By the way, if you guys want access to all the data and tools we have here, but you don't have access to Prize Picks like myself living in New Jersey, you can go sign up at BetMGM. And if you use our link, you also will get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And there we go. There's the picture of Eric. Look at that happy fella. Eric Lindquist. A better photo of him has never been taken. It does look like he may have eaten a little bit of pizza, maybe a little bit of sodiumed up before this picture was taken, but you'll love to see it. Eric Lindquist there. Look
Who would I have done that
me.
with? Who
There's
was
that.
I?
Just thumbs up. Thumbs up. Go sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below, and you will get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Also, your first bet insured up to $1,000. But if you or anybody know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. And there he's back. Eric Lindquist. Me. Greg, Eric. Go check out BetMGM if you guys want a really simple way to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Take advantage of the link we have below. Stacks. Let's talk about some stacks here, Eric. Beginning with the Cincinnati Reds, projected for just a ton of ownership today. We have them coming in. I want to actually refresh this to make sure it is still the case. But at least before, we're projecting the Reds for like 18% ownership as a team on FanDuel. On DraftKings, they're projected for around 15% ownership. And yeah, that is still the case. Most recent ownership projections, 14.7% from the Reds. And then over on FanDuel now, 17%. This is the most popular team on the slate by a really wide margin. And I want to know, and I see your guys' super chats coming in, so we'll answer those right after we talk about the Reds. What is your stance on them now that we have all this updated ownership and seeing how popular they are?
I have less, so I have 5% or less of every single batter in that lineup, which is terrifying. I don't even know if this is the right way to do it, but as I've been playing around with the Sims tool more and more and getting not just acclimated, because I feel like I've been acclimated for a while, it's more of like, how can my process help me when there are certain things like this, where I look at the top stacks tool? There's no doubt that they are the best team to get to in a box. Like Cincinnati, 5.6 team total that we have there, 6 implied run total in Vegas, top stack percentage nearly identical to Texas. But then you're just looking at all of this negative leverage. And as you move up in stakes, and I'm playing the $16 Q on DK, I'm playing some other stuff, I just know we're going to be running into 20+% of them. And so I'm taking the EV on them and I'm just dipping it in the Sims tool. And I'm taking a lot of these players out of it. The one player that I'm just curious where the ownership shows up, because he's been dreadful this season, is Tyler Stevenson, but it feels like he's getting buoyed just because of how popular this stack is. So yeah, I just kind of nuked each one of them, removed a lot of the EV on them, still have some smatterings of these hitters, but less than 5% of everybody as I'm looking at the Sims as it's finished out.
All right. Yeah, I'm also going to be well underweight to the Reds today. I'm not playing them in single entry either because, you know, we talk about or at least I talk about the ownership a lot in single entry because I feel like that's such a different game sometimes in the large field tournaments on DraftKings where the ownership gets super concentrated. They're going to be so crazy popular today in single entry. So I would definitely recommend avoiding them there. And in large field tournaments, I'm going to be underweight to the field to them. If they go out and they absolutely smash, well, I am going to not have a good slate.
Hit the showers.
Some super chats coming in. First from James Magruder. He wants to know, are there any must-have players? Any must-have players in DK 20 max lineups?
Max Scherzer. I mean, most of them that I'm going to answer are pitchers because I don't think any specific hitter, unless, and even on that, like the 2K Fernando Tatis day, I didn't find Fernando Tatis to be a must-have hitter. There's too much variability with them. Everybody that I would ever answer in the game of baseball, unless there was just somebody, I think the right way of saying it is there's hitters that I really, really like to get to who are pulling no ownership. Fernando Tatis, he's 14% owned on DK. He's been the hottest man alive for however long. He's just one of the best players, period. And since getting back from suspension, has hit the ground running, a 273 ISO, 388 WOBA. I mean, the guy is on another planet, another stratosphere. I love the 1-2 Corey Seager, Marcus Semien combination, but none of those guys are must-haves. They're all pitchers for me. I would call James Paxton a must-have, Max Scherzer a must-have, and Andrew Heaney a must-have at their current ownerships.
I mean, if I'm just going to go based on the players I have the most exposure to, I am going to say Andrew Heaney. I'm going to say James Paxton. I'm going to say Ranger stacks and Padres stacks. Like those are the things I would say, like you must have in some point your 20 max exposures, James.
Yep. I love I mean, we're on the same page. Normally this goes well for us, knock on wood.
There we go.
Because we don't always come to the same consensus. We never talk before these shows. Mainly because you hate me, but it's fine. I feel pretty good about the Padres. I feel pretty darn good about the Rangers at identical top stack score to what we have for Cincinnati.
Who needs words when you have actions, though, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Far more important. Yeah. Being told I love you and then having somebody show it to you are two different things, and I would rather take the latter.
Exactly. Super chat from Aiden Queskin. Aiden wants to know, he needs a cheap pitcher to pair with Andrew Heaney. Should it be Beto or Williamson? Oof.
I would go Beto. I think there's actual upside with Beto, and I don't know, maybe you feel differently about that, but it is
his numbers are so bad in the minor leagues.
I know, but the strikeouts are there. That's the only reason, is that you can run into days where the Cubs just chase everything. And would that surprise you? Would that surprise me? No, they have a 24.3% K rate against righties on the season, 6th in baseball. You go through some of the individual hitters here in this lineup, and well, she's interesting. It's an interesting spot. So I think at least there's an upside there, where I don't really find any upside for Williamson unless, I don't know, the apocalypse occurs, which can happen in baseball. Do you have any interest in the Rockies?
No, I think they're too popular, but
okay.
I'm looking through, like, I'm going to answer Williamson, but I dislike both of them.
It's probably the right answer.
right? If it has to be one or the other, like there's no other way around it, Aiden. I'm going to tell you Brandon Williamson, but I aggressively don't like either of them.
It's not very nice of you.
And I don't think that they're necessary on this slate.
No,
before the slate anyway, I don't think they're necessary. We'll see. The random shit happens in baseball. We'll see Williamson go out and pitch like 6 scoreless innings.
That's what Sean V does. I told you they were going to go off. I told you, and then you never hear from him the other 80% of the times when they don't.
I mean, the other thing too is he could go out, he could throw off, 70 takes in chat, one of them hits, and that's the one you focus on.
It's just, that's what we all do, right?
Anyway, for me, I don't like either of them.
Me either.
The cheapest pitcher that I really like today is Heaney. I know you already said you're playing Heaney, though.
I am playing Heaney.
Williamson has to be one or the other, and I hate it. Talking about other stacks, what is the stack you overall have the most exposure to?
Texas.
Texas? Yeah, it is Texas for me in large field tournaments. Like I said, smaller field stuff, single entry, I'm going to be playing the Padres, who I expect to have almost no ownership in those kind of settings. Also, my top lineup in the Sims tool, highest ROI that I ran before lock, before the slate started, I should say, actually was a Padres lineup. We just got the Padres starting lineup. There wasn't anything weird in there, was there?
His son Kim was in it. I saw him come through, so I had
Top
to
teams.
change. Yeah, but that was the only one I think that was weird. You still got Grisham batting ninth. You still have Gary Sanchez. Rougned Odor has been in there pretty consistently here now, but Hae-Sung Kim was the only guy that I didn't have in the projected.
All right. Yeah, so I actually have to take Matt Carpenter in my single entry lineup.
That's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to take some Carpenter out there, but everything else, like none of the big boppers, right? Like if there was no Tatis or Machado or something like that, like that would really screw me where I'd have to like redo everything. But this is not a big deal. Just some lesser important players that are not going to be in there, like Matt Carpenter not being in the lineup. But San Diego Padres, I like them a whole bunch. We talked about the Reds as a team to come in underweight to the field too. What do you make of some of the other popular stacks though, Eric? Because I want to give out the ownership here, where we have 5 teams that are really projected for like a significant amount of ownership. We already talked on the Reds. We talked about the Rangers. The Rangers are also popular, but I'm still overweight to the Rangers. I think they're a good chalk. Then we've got the White Sox against Andrew Heaney. By the way, another reason that I think Andrew Heaney's a really good contrarian pitcher is the closer we get to lock, the ownership on Heaney is coming down and it's going up on the White Sox. The White Sox are now the 3rd most popular stack on the slate. More reason for me to like Heaney for leverage purposes. Then we've got the Cubs against Osvaldo Bido. And then we've got the Rockies against Brandon Williams. You asked me before what I make about the Rockies. Whenever the Rockies are popular, unless it's a Coors Field game, I'm probably not going to be interested in the Rockies.
That's a very, very wise thing to do.
The 2 teams I'm the most underweight to are the Rockies and the Reds in the same game. This could go horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But just based on their ownership. Reds the most popular stack. Rockies the 5th most popular stack. I'll go elsewhere. I'll go elsewhere.
Is it a little weird to you that like Ryan McMahon is getting no ownership here at the moment? Like it's all Grichuk. It's all Alfaro, who welcome to. I didn't even know he played for them at this point in time. And I literally do this all day, every day. Jurickson Profar. I kind of just disagree with the fact that it's like, I would want to get to Ryan McMahon the most out of anybody in that lineup, even left on left at current ownership. It's just weird to me that everybody's flocking to some of these righties in crazy, crazy bulk at these ownerships.
It's a lot. And that's really the problem I have with them here. It's a good hitting environment. I don't think Brandon Williams is any good. But these are some of the most popular hitters on the entire slate now.
Yeah, I'm gonna nuke Ryan McMahon a little bit here in the last 10 minutes. I think that's one guy that if you're gonna get him at reduced ownership left on left, it doesn't really matter for him in this ballpark.
No, and he's having a really good year.
Yeah, and up against both hands. That's what I'm getting at. Like I think that's my sneaky one off for the day. There you go, Ryan McMahon. Get down and get your eagle on, son.
All right. Ryan McMahon, that is going to be Eric's one-off play from the Colorado Rockies. And that is a reasonable way to differentiate a Colorado stack, is you include a lesser-owned Ryan McMahon. That's actually, in general, there are two ways that I think you guys could always make a popular stack a little bit contrary. Sorry, 3 ways. There might be like 6 ways as I think of more as I keep talking.
Oh.
Playing
Talk about
pitcher,
all the ways.
Playing hitters that don't have a platoon advantage against the pitcher, because they always get an inordinate amount of ownership in terms of the players that have a platoon advantage. Think of it this way. If you are stacking a team, you want them to score a ton of runs, right? If they don't go out and put up a crooked number on the board, your stack is probably worthless anyway.
Correct.
And if they're going to score a bunch of runs, the starting pitcher isn't going to be in the game very often, or very long, I should say. So what does it matter? A left-on-left pitcher. If your stack is going to work out, a right-handed pitcher is going to be in that stack in the like 4th or 5th inning anyway.
Correct.
So that's one thing
I did this with Kyle Tucker for years and years and years. That's been he's been my one-off pick forever and ever, because power and speed together in fantasy, when they're under-owned and like 4%, 3% on these massive slates, those are the guys that you want to find in your single entry lineups more times than not.
So that's one thing you could do. Another thing, play hitters towards the bottom of the lineup. A lot of people like to disregard the bottom of the order hitters, and while they are worse than the top of the order hitters, they're going to be correlated with some of those guys anyway. So it's not the end of the world to give an 8 or 9 hitter in a stack. And the other thing too is, and this one's a little more self-explanatory, we're just playing a contrarian pitcher. If you have the top 5 hitters from a really chalky stack, but you're playing 2 pitchers that are, like 8 and 5%, you got a contrarian lineup no matter what some of those offenses like. So those are the 3 ways that it is most easy to just make even a chalky stack a little bit more contrarian. So giving that out for the people. And that also ties into you saying that you like Ryan McMahon to differentiate some Rockies stacks. But if we talk about these offenses, the Reds, we both agreed, are a little bit over-owned. The Rangers, a little bit under-owned.
Yes.
But then we look at some of these other teams, the Cubs, the White Sox. You talked a little bit about the White Sox. For still the same case we were getting to a bunch of Chicago?
Yeah, I am. I think that there's just a lot of upside there going up against Heaney as well. This is just a classic play both sides. One's coming in under-owned. I can get leverage on Heaney. It's not that hard. It's also not that hard to get leverage, I think, on these White Sox bats at the moment. There are specific hitters that are getting steamed up. Jake Berger, again, he infinity home runs, it feels like, this season. Every day is Jake Berger day. But you get to anybody else in this lineup, Luis Robert. I mean, everybody across the line at the top, these are hitters that I think are just have been underperforming this entire year. But Robert, Grandal, Andrew Vaughn, he was pretty popular. But I mean, again, I would rather get to him at $3K than Jake Berger at his ownership. He could end up way, way popular, even batting 6th today. Clint Frazier, who is an absolute cast-off from the Yankees once upon a time, but I think had some decent enough stuff down there at AAA. It has not come with him, that's for sure, so far this season. But overall, I think just 1-2% ownership there getting to him, righty against any specific lefty here, I think that's okay with me. I just have to be taking that shot every time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I don't have any issues with any of those players whatsoever. And the stacks as well, like the White Sox, I'm going to be much higher on the Heaney side. He's just somebody I think offers a lot of leverage, especially as we get closer to lock. And like I said, the White Sox ownership going up, Heaney's ownership coming down, certainly could blow up in my face. Probably the most likely scenario, but for large field tournaments, it is a spot that I like to go to. What is a contrarian stack outside of the Padres? Because we both already sung the praise of San Diego, a team that's not projected for all that much ownership as a team to be overweight to. But are there any of these teams that are projected for sub 5% ownership that you really like? It's basically all of the teams going up against the like chalky good pitchers.
Yeah, I think Arizona, just because we're not playing Burns, it would be kind of stupid for me not to have a little bit of them. They're going to get the ball in play. I think they're going to get the ball in play above expectation, and that can always work out for you in baseball. Again, nobody over a 22% K rate. I don't know how many times I've fucking said that on this show, but I got to stop now.
You're trying to prove a point at this point.
Yeah, I am. I'm just beating a dead horse. I haven't seen him in chat here since that happened. He's probably just hanging his head in shame. But you know what, Jake, you're a nice guy. I know you've always been on these shows and always been a kind, gentlemanly fellow. So Arizona, I'm getting to simply because I'm not getting to Burns.
All right. I think that's a reasonable reason also to play a hitter or to play a stack is if there's a pitcher that you're coming in drastically underweight to the field to, you kind of want that offense to at least decently. And especially if you're playing, 30, 40, 50 plus lineups or 20 max, it's always going to make sense, at least in some respects, to be on that side of it where the Diamondbacks, if for no other reason than just like, hey, there's a lot of ownership going to Corbin Burns, I'm not playing him. I do think that would make some sense. For me, it's going to be the Houston Astros. And a lot of it too has just been Scherzer's been incredibly up and down this year. And I do wonder if just at his age, there comes a point in time with guys like him and Verlander that they just don't have the same kind of ability. I kind of think we might be at that point. This Mets team, it almost seems like everybody at the same time is kind of starting to decline. And the whole team has just been a disaster. Max Scherzer might just not be the same guy as he was a few years ago.
I would also make the argument that he could also be better. But again, he's not chalky for DFS purposes. And, you know, getting to somebody from a betting perspective when it opens at plus 115, when you just completely disagree, and every single arm in the bullpen is a righty from the Houston side, that's a completely different conversation than when we're talking about a specific stack here. I definitely don't completely hate it. I'm obviously not doing that a lot. The one hitter I am getting to, though, I wanted to at least shout out his reverse splits and what existed in AAA apparently last year into this year. And it's a gigantic reverse splits deal. Yanner Diaz, he's batting 5th here. If Scherzer is starting to give up more average to righties, which has just been the case here this season, if the ball's going to get put in play from Yanner Diaz, he has like overall 1 ISO in AAA against right-handed pitching. It's a wild reverse split season.
What'd you say that number was?
Over 1 ISO, like 1.000.
1.00 on the dot.
No, it's over it. It's
okay.
Bigger than that. Like we're talking, the kid is absolutely out of his mind. Or OPS, sorry. What is his OPS? Let me pull it up here.
I was going to say that's a really low ISO.
Okay. Yeah, no. I meant that he's absolutely smashing. Sorry, it's an over 1 OPS against right-handed pitching. Like we're talking elite beyond elite beyond elite.
Spencer Smith in chat is saying Greg wears booty shorts only because Eric texts me every day and asks me to put them on and send him a picture. And because they're comfortable. And I don't have issues with any of that.
Put the lotion on the skin.
About a minute left to go here until lock, Eric. Any final points, anything we've not discussed over the course of the show that we want to bring up before we log off?
No, we're probably going to be broke when Colorado-Cincinnati starts, but that's going to be fun.
All right. That is probably a fair assessment. If you guys have not done yet, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm playing a bunch of contrarian lineups today, which means one of two things. You'll be able to find my lineups at the bottom or the top of GPPs and nowhere in between. Hopefully, I'll see you guys at the top, but who knows? Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great night. See you back here tomorrow.